consider or reconsider its participation in the government of national unity if the Bella Act is implemented?
Yes, of course, there's specific risks, political risks in entering into an agreement such as a government of national unity. And from the very start, when we decided on our executive to join, we said, well, it's possible to pull out at any stage. However, it's not a decision which will be lightly taken, and definitely not on the behest of someone else. The Freedom Front decided to join because it gives an opportunity to be in the cabinet when essential issues regarding our policy and our constituency, comes on the table, and not to try to influence it from the outside, but from the inside. However, if it turns out to be impossible to influence it, then it actually makes no sense. It's not just to have a seat at the dinner table. It's about really fulfilling our mandate.
Now, what specific concerns does the Freedom Front Plus have regarding the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act and the impact it would have on Afrikaans schools?
Yes, our experience is that when one language schools are forced to go into bilingual schools, then it's just a stepping stone towards only English. That has happened several times, and even in when the president signed, we have anecdotal evidence in Gauteng specifically, where the circuit managers or the personnel phoned schools and said, okay, so we are going to visit you now, you are going to be bilingual soon. So in fact, they confirmed the concerns that we had, that this is or can be interpreted and implemented as something directed against Afrikaans schools. And that is definitely a concern, because schools, are not just a conduit of neutral knowledge. Schools are part of education, of bringing up the future. And that is something which has to happen within a cultural framework.
So how does the Freedom Front Plus now plan to work with AfriForum and other organizations to mobilize public opposition against the Bella Act? And what strategies will you employ to ensure that the concerns of the Afrikaans schools are heard?
Yeah, I think the important thing is that the public opinion on Bella has been mobilized quite effectively, and that has been demonstrated with the public hearings. And it's interesting that it's as if it built up at the beginning. The first hearings were more or less equally divided between supporters and opponents of Bella. And by the end of the National Council of Provinces hearings, it was overwhelming at every venue where there were hearings that people opposed it. We are in the phase now of dispute resolution within the government of national unity, where the president and the leaders of the different parties consult with each other, or the president consult with the leaders of the parties, and where the things which matter actually happen behind the scenes. And there, our leader, Dr. Groenewald, is involved, and we are in continuous contact to say, okay, so what can we do? It's very easy to say we are against this whole act. We want it repealed, yes, and we want it to be thought out again. But we are now at the stage of fine-tuning. Mm-hmm. What fine changes can be made which will take the sting out of this act.
Yeah. All right. I thank you so much, Dr. Wynand Boshoff. He's the FF Plus MP and a chief spokesperson on basic education.
You are listening to Elvis Preslin on First Take SA on SAFM.
The Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU, has expressed disappointment over the Democratic Alliance's plans to dismantle the Employment Equity Act. This comes after the DA vehemently opposes the Minister Nomakhosazana Met's announcement to appoint 20,000 additional inspectors to ensure businesses comply with labour laws. The Act promotes fairness and addresses historical inequalities in the workplace. However, the DA views the law as a tool to fuel racial division for political gain rather than stimulate economic growth. To elaborate, we are joining on the line by Thulasizwe, COSATU's national spokesperson. A very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis. Thank you so much for having us.
Isabella, how does COSATU plan to address the DA's intention to dismantle the Employment Equity Act, considering the Act's significance in promoting fairness and addressing historical inequalities in the workplace?
Quite frankly, COSATU is irritated by this. We are not sure. For starters, we are not sure how the DA goes from Minister Makuzozana Meth's plan to increase inspectors from 2,000 to 20,000 to then jumping to then saying that the Employment Equity Act is unconstitutional. The one has nothing to do with the other, as far as we can tell. So, you'll know that recently there's been a blitz by the Department of Employment and Labour coming from that TikTok from a young lady who was complaining about how she and her colleagues were being treated at a restaurant in Pretoria, where effectively these young people were subsidizing the business, this French restaurant. And so to go from there, so when she complained, then it started this blitz, and then there's been all these inspections. And so we have forever complained that there aren't enough inspectors on the ground because there's a lot that is going on in these workplaces that needs to be inspected because employers are frankly not complying with legislation. So to go from that to now saying that employment equity is unconstitutional, we are wondering how they made that jump. But be that as it may, this law, like you say, is meant to make sure that we redress, the discrepancies from the past. The fact that black people, Indians, and colors were, kept away from opportunities, given that we come from an apartheid past. And so for the DA, every now and again, the DA is so tone deaf. Every now and again, it's like they just arrive from Mars and they have no sense of our history, where we come from, and the things that need to be done to redress where we come from. And so, and quite frankly, there is no chance. I mean, if they take this to the Constitutional Court, they're not going to win this. And so we're wondering, what is this futile exercise about, and where did it all of a sudden spring from? Given that in workplaces, white people represent 62% of top management, while, black people, the Africans, represent 80% of the economically active population, but they only represent 17.2% of top management. Indians are sitting at 11.6% and colors at about 6%. So, it is quite a stretch. It is quite a stretch to say, while you have this, now you want to go to the Constitutional Court and say this law is unconstitutional.
What measures will COSATU now take to support the enforcement of the Employment Equity Act and, of course, support the minister in that appointment of the 20,000 additional inspectors?
We will be. We have already, we've already issued a statement saying that when Minister of Finance goes through to present his midterm policy budget statement, he must make sure that she has enough resources to actually start now to grow the number of those inspectors in her department. So we'll see. We'll see how far they're willing to take this, but there's no chance in hell that they're going to win this.
All right. Thank you so much. Thulasizwe, COSATU's national spokesperson. That's where we got to end it for today. From the team, Thulasizwe Simelane, Tizwangana Manashi, and Marumukakana. Our senior producer, Ronald Perry. Our technical producer, Loboheng Manana. Executive producer, Vutsila Kota. I'm Elvis Preslin. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Same time, same place. Ciao for now. Arrivederci.
In our top stories, families of Lusikisiki mass shooting victims reject government's funeral offer, and South Africa concerned over the escalation of hostilities in the Middle East. Good morning. Municipal authorities in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape say the families of the victims of 2 mass shootings in Ngobozana village have set aside Saturday and Sunday next weekend for the funerals of their loved ones. The families have rejected government's offer to arrange mass funerals. The incidents happened last weekend. Councillor Thandazile Mgudu says a mass memorial service for the deceased will be held this Sunday.
The Matu family funeral will be on the 12th. The funeral for the other families at Dimvi and Malangeni will be on the 12th as well, while the funeral for the Ndleleni family here at Ngobozana village will be on the 13th. We will no longer have the mass funeral because families have requested that they bury their loved ones on their preferred dates. The only thing we will do as government is the mass memorial service, which will be held at the college this coming Sunday.
The South African National Small Bus Operator Council in the Northwest says the Provincial Community Safety and Transport Management Department's failure to pay scholar transport operators on time is crippling their businesses. The council's concern comes as schools reopened for the 4th term and ahead of the matric final exams. The department has not paid scholar transport operators for more than 6 months. The council's provincial chairperson Final Khudumo says this is worrying.
The situation is alarming, with some operators going unpaid for 6 months and more, leading to financial strains, potential liquidation and contract terminations, and learners not going to school. These delays hinder operators' ability to pay drivers, maintain buses and adhere to operational standards. Furthermore, we are seeing unnecessary operating license delays by provincial regulatory entity, PRI, while traffic officers continue to issue hefty fines of 2,500 and even impounding buses for operating license.
The department spokesperson Ushibenku Naditse says some operators who submit invoices late are to blame. He says the MEC Vessels Murueng has established a task team to address some of the issues the council raised.
There are operators that were claimed only once a year for the whole year, especially those big operators who will have variety of sources. However, there are those that will be claiming every month, and most of them will not have the kind of problems that others would. Some of these people will be sending a claim and expect to be paid the following week while the process is going. The MEC has actually ordered that we should set up a task team with transport, which the chairperson of Sanko is a member, to come up with a solution to solve these problems.
Tributes are pouring in for gospel musician Solomon Mulokwane, popularly known as Soli Muhulu. He died yesterday at the age of 65. Muhulu's management says the musician was admitted to hospital after falling ill following a tour of Botswana. Muhulu's fans in Limpopo say his songs will continue to offer them hope.
Several Solimuhulu songs, including the powerful story of Job's unshakable devotion, have deepened my spiritual connection.
Solimuhulu's music holds a special place in my heart. I've been a fan since his early days, enjoying classics like Mpelecheche, which bring me solace and healing.
Solimuhulu's music revitalizes my spirit. I'm particularly fond of uplifting songs like Emma Emeleti and Wandaila Moya.
And finally, the South African government has called on all parties in the Middle East conflict to exercise restraint. This after Iran launched a barrage of missiles towards Israel, retaliating against Israel's attack in Lebanon. Pretoria says it's concerned about the latest developments. Kailihle Kumalo has more.
The government of South Africa says it's gravely concerned about the continuing escalation of military action by Israel on Palestine and Lebanon, as well as subsequent response by Iran. Pretoria says the international community and the United Nations Security Council must address the spiraling conflict. South African authorities have noted with dismay Israel's decision to ban United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres from setting foot in Israel.
Recapping the top story, municipal authorities in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape say the families of the victims of two mass shootings in Ngobazana village have set aside Saturday and Sunday next weekend for the funerals of their loved ones. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, pretty good start on the roads this Thursday. Just one thing to note, if you're in Cape Town side, the N1 Huguenot Tunnel is currently closed to high-sided vehicles, so no trucks being sent through Huguenot Tunnel. That's due to very strong winds across that viaduct section, so truckers currently being sent the high road around the De Toys Kloof Pass, the old road there, so just factor in probably a busy 101 section out that way. And just keep in mind, if you're driving into Sandton, probably a good idea to go a little bit earlier than normal today and tomorrow. Already plenty of roads are closed around the bottom of Sandton, Catherine Street, parts of Rivonia, 5th West, Pybus as well, all ahead of this one, this weekend's F1 Red Bull F1 showrun event. Basically, Catherine Street's being transformed into a racetrack ahead of that event already, so there will be some disruption as you pick up those road closures and divert through peak times in the morning and afternoon. We'll be very busy today and tomorrow. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SAFM sports headlines. It's cricket action. Ryan Rickleton's 91 helping the Proteas cruise to a 139-run win over Ireland in the first ODI. And in soccer, Arne Slot becomes the first Liverpool manager to win 8 of his opening 9 matches. Details around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Thursday, the 3rd of October 2024 has dawned. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. It's all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your Morning Brief. Well, coming up over the next few hours, the next 3 hours, we will be covering some of these topics. There are growing fears, and this is unavoidable, that we will talk quite at length about the situation in the Middle East. And that's because there are growing fears of an all-out regional war in the Middle East, with all the attendant implications that would have for that region, but also for the globe as a whole. So this comes after Israel has vowed to make Iran pay for its recent missile attack that happened the day before yesterday. Iran launched almost 200 ballistic missiles towards Israel on Tuesday, including those targeted at cities such as Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. But now Iran is in turn saying if Israel retaliates for those missile attacks, Iran will respond ferociously. So we have that conversation lined up for you to delve deeper into that situation, which is of global concern, at about 6:20. In the second hour of the show, we'll tell you about this. The Mulin local municipality has not managed to pay salaries of employees for the month of September. The municipality blames its failure to pay salaries on Eskom attaching 4 of its bank accounts. You'll remember we told you about this. I think about 2 weeks ago, we talked about Mulin not making good on a payment arrangement with Eskom, and then Eskom moving on to attach some of the municipality's bank accounts. Well, that has come back to haunt the municipality and its workers. Unfortunately, the workers also caught up in that situation as they have been left, thousands of them actually have been left in the lurch, including senior officials, councillors and service delivery personnel. So we'll hear from the municipality's finance MMC, and that conversation is coming up just after 7 a.m. And in our science feature at about 8:20, it's one of those distressing but necessary conversations to reflect on. South Africa has the 3rd highest number of suicides, we are told, on the continent. The 3rd highest on the continent, this after Lesotho, of course. And this is according to the World Health Organization. The continent of Africa generally currently has the highest suicide rates around the world. So we'll have that conversation, and we have it lined up. It's a necessary conversation, distressing as it is, but we'll have that conversation at about 8:20 here on the show. Of course, as usual, we have all of your regulars lined up. And Musa with your news updates every half hour. Rob Byrne with your traffic updates every 15 minutes or so. Zai Khan watching your sport throughout the morning. Ndauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. We also have Sipho Mantula, of course, with that intriguing and always fascinating Africa Update feature. And that's coming up just before 8 a.m. And as usual, the Ideas Refinery is open. Put yours on the table. Give us a call throughout the show on these issues and others that you may want to raise. The number to dial for that is 086 000 2032. You can also send us a WhatsApp voice note and we'll play those out and engage with them. And the number for that is 061 410 4107. The Thursday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Open your mind to Life on Death Row, Thursdays at 9 p.m. and Resistance in a Hostile Environment, a 3-part documentary showcasing turning points which would go on to define race relations in the UK for a generation. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Wind down your weeknights with The Outlaws, Fridays at 9 p.m. and explore the world's most dangerous roads at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
This summer, we have extra large offers on Ford Ranger XL, XLT and Wildtrak from only $481,900 for a Ranger XL single cab 4x2. It's the extra large Ranger offer from only $481,900. Visit your nearest participating Ford dealer. Optional service plan included. While stocks last. T&Cs apply.
For 18 years, Kumbulekaya has been fostering healing through forgiveness and reconciliation.
Are you asking me that? Yes. I grew up without a mom.
So what happened to your family?
What family? You are my family. What happened to you?
Witness as families forgive one another and reunite after a long time. Catch the new season of Kumbulekaya on SABC1 every Wednesday at 9 p.m.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
So let's start the show by opening up that news diary, and we have Anne Musa to do exactly that for us. Good morning to you, Anne. I imagine that the situation in the Middle East continues to dominate, alongside, of course, many of the top stories locally.
Good morning, Tulas, indeed. So we're looking at the latest developments on the situation in the Middle East, with South Africa calling on the international community and the United Nations Security Council in particular to address the spiraling conflict, and the government concerned about the continuing escalation of military action by Israel and Palestine and the Lebanese Republic, as well as the response by Iran. There's also reports of Israeli strikes in central Beirut earlier this morning. And locally, AfriForum urging the DA and the Freedom Front Plus to reconsider their role in the government of national unity, and that's if the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act is implemented in its current form. And the lobby group believes the act poses a significant threat to Afrikaans schools. The High Court sitting in Palm Ridge on Gauteng's East Rand handing down judgment today in sentencing to serial rapist Nkosinati Pagati. He committed these offences around Ekurhuleni from 2012 until 2021, and the majority of his victims were school-going children, the youngest being 9 years old. Former Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa also set to appear in the Commercial Crimes Court over bribery allegations. He's appearing alongside his co-accused, the former Enterprise Outsourcing Holdings executive Jihan McKay, and the charges relate to Kodwa allegedly receiving over R1 million in kickbacks, and that was in exchange for government tenders. Focusing on KwaZulu-Natal, who over the last 3 years, were hit by erratic and severe weather patterns or weather events, and from severe floods that killed over 400 people to the recent snowstorms that left people stranded on major highways. Today, the KZN Premier, Tamintuli, is expected to make an announcement on the province's approach on climate change. And just lastly, in a developing story, police investigating a double murder case at an informal settlement in Primrose in eastern Johannesburg. 2 people were gunned down and their vehicle set alight. So some of the stories that we are focusing on.
All right, I've got to thank you for that, and quite fascinating to see some of the frictions and the tensions within the Government of National Unity that have to do with issues of policy, as you report there, about the calls for the Freedom Front Plus to reconsider its position in the Government of National Unity should the Bella Act be implemented in its current form. It's quite interesting.
It is, because one can actually say that the DA already hinted at leaving the GNU over the Bella Bill when John Steenhuisen warned President Ramaphosa that signing the bill into law would violate the joint statement of intent.
All right, we'll talk a bit later. That's Ann Musa. She's watching the news for you and will update you every half hour here on The Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
I think fairer weather is finally getting here, slowly but surely it's getting here. So having said that, let's get you ready for the day with your weather for today. We start with some warnings. There is a yellow level 1 warning. It says damaging winds and waves are expected between Hout Bay and Hermanus until late morning, resulting in difficulty in navigation at sea. The second yellow level 1 warning says damaging interior winds are expected over the extreme western parts of the Northern Cape, resulting in localized damage to settlements. We also have a fire danger warning. It says extremely high fire danger conditions are expected in the western parts of the Northern Cape. There's also an advisory that's worth mentioning. Heat wave conditions with persistently high temperatures are expected over the Richtersveld municipality of the Northern Cape from Wednesday, but over the Namakoi and Kamisberg municipalities and Matsikama municipality of the Western Cape from Thursday until Saturday. The rest of your weather then looks like this. Pretoria is fine with a minimum of 9 and a maximum of 27. Johannesburg fine, 6 to 24. Mbombela is partly cloudy with a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 22. Polokwane partly cloudy, 10 to 20. Mahikeng is fine with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 25. Bloemfontein is fine with a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 23. Kimberley fine, 8 to 24. Cape Town is fine. The wind there is light and variable with a minimum temperature of 15 and maximum of 30. Gqeberha is partly cloudy, becoming fine. The wind is moderate to fresh northeasterly, becoming strong in the afternoon with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 21. East London is partly cloudy, becoming fine. The wind is moderate to fresh northeasterly, becoming strong in the afternoon with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 21. Durban is partly cloudy with isolated light showers and rain. The wind is moderate southeasterly, becoming easterly to northeasterly by late morning. It's a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 21. And finally, Pietermaritzburg is partly cloudy with a chance of light rain at times with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 20.
Masandawana ladies want to rubber stamp their authority with maximum points to stay on the summit. But Copper Belt ladies want to fight with all they have to move away from the bottom half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. Mamelodi Sundowns Ladies FC versus Copperbelt Ladies FC on Saturday, 5 October at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The reality is that 90% of South Africans don't save enough for retirement. This National Seniors Month, why not be part of the 10% who do?
Choose an interest rate of up to 11.7% after 60 months with a Nedbank Electronic Optimum Plus account. Anyone 55 and over can open one on the Money app in less than 2 minutes. Go to nedbank.co.za for more info. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Mubango returns for an explosive new season on SABC2. A renaissance of new beginnings, intrigue, and drama with old enemies and new characters. Catch the rebirth season of Mubango every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. on SABC2 or stream it on SABC Plus. Mubango, ukovela panda. SABC2.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
Right, to this story now, and we've all been watching it very closely because it is of global concern. There are growing fears of an all-out war in the Middle East. This comes as Israel has vowed to make Iran pay for its recent missile attack. Iran launched almost 200 ballistic missiles towards Israel on Tuesday night, but now Iran is in turn saying if Israel retaliates for the missile attacks, Tehran will respond ferociously. It's all become a bit of a vicious cycle of attack and reprisal. Let's try and make sense of it all, and I'm joined by Willem Els, who is Senior Training Coordinator on Terrorism and Explosives at the Institute for Security Studies. Willem, good morning. I've got to thank you for your time. So, from Israel's perspective, what is our expectation of the response? We've been hearing tough talk from the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and I think that's understating it. He's quite clear that they will hit back and hit back hard. Can we expect that to continue?
Good morning to you. Yeah, indeed. You know, if you look at the history of Israel and how they respond to these type of attacks and threats against them, they normally come true when it comes to their threats, because for them it is a matter of survival. And, you know, they've been surrounded by this access of proxies that were established by Iran for some time. So up till now, it is actually, it was an asymmetrical warfare that have been fought by Israel against the proxies in Lebanon, Hamas, as well as in Syria and of recent Yemen and Iraq. And now the first time it is actually country to country that is taking place. So now, you know, a lot of new protocols are coming in place, like your Geneva Convention on War and how to do war, to battle war, and so on. So it's that paradigm shift in terms of the war that is taking place. As you mentioned, it can escalate now. So different rules are coming into place now when it comes to warfare. But your problem that you have is, you know, it's like, as you mentioned, the tit for tat. So traditionally, what Israel have done is when you hit them with a 6-pound hammer, they come back with a 12-pound hammer, and we expect that given the talk and the rhetoric that as you mentioned came from the Prime Minister, we can expect that there might be quite a severe retaliation.
Yeah, in fact, we're beginning to see that, Willem, because reports overnight indicating that Israel has hit Beirut with some strikes, killing 6 people at least. So we are already starting to see elements of that. The question that struck me, though, Willem, was are we now at the point at which we are now? Can we still make sense of where this cycle began? What triggered this? Because if you go back with the context of the 2006 war, it seemed to be not a détente, but, you know, perhaps an uneasy calm and a tense calm particularly between Hezbollah and Israel. That was until, of course, October last year when that attack by Hamas happened. Mm-hmm. In terms of the current fighting, are we able to pinpoint a point that triggered what has now become a vicious cycle with Hezbollah saying Israel is assassinating people, including our guest, the guest Iran during the inauguration, and the other leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah, and Israel, on the other hand, saying you are supporting proxies that are destabilizing our country? Can we pinpoint where it started, the recent escalation?
Yeah, the recent escalation, you mentioned 2006, there was a peace treaty, it was a war, and there was also UN Security Council resolution, I think it's 1701, which actually determined that Hezbollah must move away from the border. They were not supposed to get close to the border with Israel. They were not supposed to have troops or weapons or anything there. And that was supposed to be enforced by the international community in terms of the Security Council resolution, which they failed to do, as we noticed in recent years. And that actually then prompted Israel to if the international community and the United Nations does not do that, then they would have to do that because of the threat and the constant firing of missiles towards their border. They had to evacuate more than 30,000 people from the immediate border area. And that's been going on for almost a year now, where we saw that Israel was to some extent, given their history, they were very patient and trying to avoid direct confrontation with Hezbollah. But we see that has been a tactic of Iran. Rather than having a direct battle or direct war with Israel, they started to develop an axis of proxies all the way from Iraq through to Syria and through to Lebanon, and then also, of course, the Hamas in the Gaza. And they weaponized them. They provided them with thousands and thousands of missiles in order to attack Israel and so on. So that was part of their strategy. But you should see that against the backdrop also in the Arab world. Remember, the Arab world is not united. You got your different factions, and there's a battle for superiority between the countries that used to be in the lead in that world. That is your Saudi Arabia and UAE on the Sunni side of the spectrum, and then of course Iran that wants to become the big player now, and they've got their ambitions to become the leader of the Arab world. So all of that is the backdrop of this whole dynamics. And of course, if you've got a common enemy in Israel, it will strengthen yourself. And so all of that, it created sort of a perfect storm for where we are today.
Lastly, Willem, the role of the United Nations. We're seeing these reports that Israel has banned and now considers the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres a persona non grata in Israel. There was a UN Security Council meeting a few days ago. Is there a role that you foresee that can be meaningful, that can be played by the UN, either the General Assembly, which I highly doubt, or the UN Security Council?
You got your challenges with the UN. If you look at the African context, even in Africa, the countries, especially in the Sahel, they started to lose their faith in the UN because the UN would come in with all these missions, the peace missions and everything, and they're not very successful when it comes to that. That's why they were kicked out of Mali recently, or one of the reasons. So it is time for the UN actually to raise their hand and come to the table and be more effective in what they are doing, and stop with the talking and become more of a doer in order to restore the faith and the trust of the people in their actions and in their ability to actually be a peacekeeping and in some cases a peace enforcement agency. And we saw that they failed. There was a lot of rhetoric in the Middle East on that, and then also what emanated from what happened in Gaza, where we saw that some of the attackers were also workers from the UN. That discredited the UN to a great extent, and that actually led to the distrust in the UN from Israel itself, as well as in Guterres. And according to the Israeli government, they perceive him as to being biased towards them. And the moment that happens, the UN starts to lose their legitimacy in being a unbiased body that can come and create peace in that area.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is Willem Els, who is Senior Training Coordinator on Terrorism and Explosives at the Institute for Security Studies. As I say, this is a story we have to stick with because of its global implications. Just for starters, the amount of trade that moves in some of the waters in that region, that would be the first implications in terms of what the implications of a broader regional war would be. be. And I don't need to tell you about the oil production, the oil trade around the world, and what the possible implications would be should we reach the stage of a fully fledged regional war. That brings us to 6:30. Let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, police are investigating a double murder case in the Makause informal settlement in Primrose in eastern Johannesburg. 2 people were gunned down and the vehicle set alight. Municipal authorities in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape say the families of the victims of the 2 mass shootings in Ngobozana village have set aside Saturday and Sunday next weekend for the funerals of their loved ones. The families have rejected government's offer to arrange mass funerals. And the South African National Small Bus Operator Council in the Northwest says the Provincial Community Safety and Transport Management Department's failure to pay scholar transport operators on time is crippling their businesses. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just a reminder, if you're driving into Sandton, give yourself plenty of time. Sandton has basically, the bottom half of Sandton basically transformed into an F1 track ahead of the Red Bull show event this weekend. The main event on Sunday, but the track is being constructed, the seating is being erected, routes like Catherine, parts of Rivonia, West 5th and Pybus all closed, and more closures going in today and tomorrow and on Saturday as well. So next couple of days, if you're heading into work in central Sandton, particularly in from Ilovo and coming down from sort of Grayston Catherine off the highway, just make sure you've got plenty of time to get through what will be an inevitable busy couple of days. Joburg's Mike 1, a little unusual this morning. Queues just coming up into the Crown. It normally extends through to Empire Road, so it's a slightly different traffic pattern there. The N1 south through Midrand, not as busy as it normally is. Which is interesting. We'll keep an eye on that one for you. Coming out of Durban's Chatsworth area, the Higginson Highway is quite slow out to Havenside. And Cape Town, busy as usual, going in on the highways. Don't forget this weekend, kicking off tomorrow, it's 3 days of the very popular SA Navy Festival. It returns to Simonstown. It's free entry. There's events on Friday and then big days on Saturday and Sunday. If you're going, make sure you're going early. If you're not going, avoid the main road through Simonstown over the next few days. It will be closed from time to time for parade events, but it'll just be absolutely packed with spectator traffic. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey, good morning, Zai. It's a South African expression. When you're having it easy, we say you're cruising nicely. And that's exactly what the Proteas are doing, is it?
Oh, yeah. They are cruising nicely. And I think it was a little bit of luck of the Irish this time. Definitely good news for Team South Africa, helped by Ryan Rickleton's brilliant knock of 91, guiding the Proteas to a 139-run win over Ireland in the first ODI of their 3-match series. South Africa posted 271 for 9 after a rocky start, with Rickleton and Tristan Stubbs rebuilding the innings with a solid 152-run partnership. The Proteas bowlers then took charge, with Lazard Williams leading the attack, taking 4 for 32, while Lungi Ngidi, he also picked up 2 wickets there. Ireland bowled out for 132 in just 32 overs. Now, despite the win, there's a bit of concern for the Proteas' Tony de Zorzi, who sustained a knee injury during a boundary stop and is being assessed for further damage. Soccer, Orlando Pirates and Namibian international utility player Dion Hotto has credited head coach Jose Rivero for transforming his football in the past 3 years. Now, speaking to the media as part of the build-up to the MTN8 final against Stellenbosch FC at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban this coming weekend, Hotto says Rivero, his arrival, has benefited his football, having won 4 trophies under Rivero in the last 2 seasons and also helped make them more competitive overall. Hotto says his excellent work is there for everyone to see.
I think that's why the club has signed, appointed him as a coach, to bring happiness to the club. And I believe that we can all see the football is brought into this club, and the accolades also. Other
soccer news: Senegal have decided to part ways with their coach Ali Cisse, who helped them to their Africa Cup of Nations triumph in 2022. The Senegalese FA said an interim coaching team would replace the 48-year-old Cisse for the two 2025 AFCON qualifiers against Malawi this month. Elsewhere, Arne Slot became the first Liverpool manager to win 8 of his opening 9 matches as Mohamed Salah's brilliant strike sealed a 2-0 victory against Bologna in the Champions League yesterday. Aston Villa beat Bayern Munich 1-0, also in the Champions League. And we have the other match. Ademola Lookman starred as Atalanta claimed a 3-0 Champions League victory over Shakhtar Donetsk in Germany. And golf news, Rory McIlroy is hopeful golf civil war will be over before the end of the year, as major figures from both camps gather at this week's Alfred Dunhill Links Championship. PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan and Yasir Al Rumayyan, the governor of Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, which sponsors Live Golf, are both playing in the Pro-Am event in Scotland. Monahan and his partner, the American Billy Horschel, will play in the same group as Al Rumayyan and South Africa's Dean Burmester, and that's in today's first round at Carnoustie. Now, Rory McIlroy, who will play alongside his father Jerry, is set to play with both Monahan and Al Rumayyan over the course of the weekend. That's a wrap of your morning brief sport. We'll have more at the top of the hour. For SAFM, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
And for that, let's turn to Ntauleng Lechela. Good morning to you, Ntauleng. We are watching Tesla, are we not, in this hour, and it seems they're missing some of their targets.
That's right, Silas. Good morning to you. So Tesla not faring well, missing analyst expectations for the third quarter rather. Now the EV maker handed over 462,890 vehicles in the 3 months to 30 September. This was up 6.4% from the preceding quarter. Wall Street, on average, had expected the Elon Musk-led company to deliver 469,828 vehicles. Now, this was according to 12 analysts that were polled. The slowdown in deliveries can be attributed to tough competition, with the car maker dealing with rivals from Europe and Asia. Tesla doesn't publicly report the exact number of cars sold, but it does report deliveries, which is the closest thing to it. And this is a number that's highly important to investors and watched by analysts. Now, to match last year's delivery total of 1.81 million units, Tesla must deliver a record-breaking 516,344 vehicles in the fourth quarter. A shortfall in that could result in Tesla recording its first annual drop in deliveries. So the deliveries for the next quarter, or rather this quarter, will be watched closely. Tesla's recent price reductions and incentives have also put pressure on its profit margins. Now, as the company adapts its strategy, it will be launching its highly anticipated robo-taxi at a major event this month, just emphasizing its push into AI-driven autonomous technologies.
You're also watching M&A activity, and this is in the fintech sector. Tell me about Lesaka and Adumo.
So Lesaka Technologies has finally completed a takeover of fintech operator Adumo. This deal, initially announced in May, was finalized after receiving regulatory approval last month, and it'll see Lesaka take over Adumo for 1.6 billion rand. The purchase consideration was settled through a combination of over 17 million new Lesaka shares and a cash payment of 232.2 million rand. This acquisition is expected to reshape Lesaka's shareholder register, with Adumo's consortium comprising private equity players Apis Partners, African Rainbow Capital, CrossFin, the International Finance Corporation, and Adumo Management. Now, that consortium collectively holds a 21% stake in Lesaka. Now, Lesaka provides informal retail merchants with point-of-sale devices, allowing them to pay suppliers and sell products, including airtime and electricity. Adumo is South Africa's largest independent payment processor, so the deal will complement Lesaka's offerings and strengthen its position position in that fintech space.
Lastly, a recap of the markets, how we closed here at home, but also just reflecting on Asia and the US.
So those geopolitical tensions in the Middle East still top of mind, kicking off in the U.S. Major stock averages in the region closing Wednesday session barely changed, as you know, those tensions just weighed on investor sentiment. The Dow Jones edging higher than the other indices, up 0.09% at the close. Back at home, markets wrapping up the day in the green, shrugging off those tensions, it seems. The all-share ending yesterday's trading session up close to 0.6%, boosted by the Industrial 25, up 0.9%. In the currency scene, the rand still on the back foot, pushing above the 17 rand 40 mark. It's sitting at 17.41 to the dollar. Over in Asia, stock markets are trading mixed. There is some caution playing out as traders remain concerned about the fallout in the Middle East and assess stronger than expected U.S. private sector employment data, also just dimming prospects for a aggressive rate cut come November.
All right, that's it. Let's leave it there for now. That's Ndao. She's back in the second hour with more updates for you. She's watching all things to do with the economy, business, as well as the markets, not only here at home, but globally, and updating you. So she will come back just after 7:30 with another update here on The Morning Brief.
Back-to-back champions, the Buccaneers are only interested in lifting up their third consecutive title. Meanwhile, Maroon and Gold, Stellies, want to ensure that black and white fans go to bed early. This is the MTN8 final. Wafa Wafa! Catch the reigning champs, Orlando Pirates, up against Stellenbosch FC on Saturday, 5 October at 5:30 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Win your share of 50,000 Rand when you play Winning at Live with OneLife. Don't forget to enter on our website, safm.co.za. Stay tuned to the Morning Brief on SAFM. Keep your phone on loud and we might be the one to change your life. OneLife is a licensed life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. OneLife, changing lives.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. You love drama? Then step into the world of Luther as he cracks down on criminals terrorizing the streets of London Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Top Gear will have you falling in love and rolling in laughter as Jeremy Clarkson and his team take you on an automotive journey like no other, Monday to Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
All right, let's return to a story we covered, I think about 2 weeks ago or so. Businesses flouting South Africa's labour laws have been instructed to pay more than 10 million rand to employees that they have shortchanged. This is according to the Department of Employment and Labour, which has recently intensified raids on rogue employers. Employment and Labour Minister Nomakosazana Math says the department conducted 2,681 inspections across the country in September, with many workplaces found to be in breach of some of the country's labour and other laws. Math says her department will continue to raid employers across all sectors in the country. And for more on this conversation, I'm joined now by Egi Moyelwa, who is the Inspector General at the Department of Employment and Labour. Good morning to you. I thank you for your time. So you had this intense blitz that started with the restaurant sector, and you've now come back with a report. What are the highlights? What did you find by way of levels of compliance with the different laws that are applicable?
The blitz that you're talking about took place over 4 days, from the 17th to the 20th. Typically, what you found was not surprising at all. It's in line with what was found in Babel and Ocean Basket. The highest level of non-compliance are in the space of occupational health and safety, followed closely by Compensation of Occupational Injuries and Diseases Act, then the Unemployment Insurance Act, and the Basic Conditions of Employment, in particular underpayments. And like you stated, we made recoveries in terms of monies enforced.
But what happens now? You've done the blitz, and it's one thing to do the blitz. How do you sustain compliance in an environment where, the conversation has been that you simply don't have enough inspectors?
Absolutely. That's the reason why we come up with all sorts of approaches. And the one raid in terms of high impact blitz is one such. Now that we've done this, we dovetail this with part of our strategies in terms of advocacy. Because what you're looking for ultimately should be, like you're saying, should be something that is sustainable. We'd like to see a change in behavior. There are some of the companies that have reached out to us to say, let's talk. So we own that in terms of advocating to both employers and employees, so that at the end of the day, employees are empowered to know the laws and also be able to stand up for their rights. And so the employers will know the right thing to do. And once they display an attitude of wanting to talk and wanting to be on the table, for us, that's a beginning of change.
Yeah. Ms. Mailo, I want to zoom in on one aspect of the report that you've produced following this intense blitz, focusing on the restaurant industry. And I think the reason I do that is that it's a big talking point. The issue around the employment of foreign nationals, whether documented or undocumented. I look at your report, it says you found in the operations a total of 1,941 foreign nationals out of the 2,681 inspections you conducted. But I don't know whether it's surprising to you. You will tell me the foreign nationals who were arrested, meaning that perhaps they were undocumented, is only 81. Were you surprised by that?
Not necessarily. What normally would happen is that it at some point it became common knowledge that you'll be raiding restaurants, and what we picked up was that some of the, or should I say most, and I'm purely speculating because we don't have data in that regard. But most of the restaurants told release their undocumented workers for the 4 days that were busy. So those largely that remained behind were the ones that are documented. So it was not totally surprising, and yes, so that's the reason why. One of the reasons why we found that by and large those that were there, they had the right documents in the form of your exemption permits, in the form of asylum seeker statuses.
So if I hear you correctly, you don't believe that this gives a picture that says actually the restaurant sector is largely compliant with the immigration laws, but rather that there were attempts to undermine your operation, in that people were forewarned to say, if your papers are not in order, don't come to work for the next 4 days.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We don't. For every one employee documented that was arrested, there are several others that didn't pitch up.
Sure.
Some of them ran out. You won't believe. We found out that in some of these restaurants, they've got secret escape routes. So as soon as you'll come in through the normal channel, and as soon as they pick up that the law enforcers are in the house, then they it's almost like they're rehearsed.
Wow.
They use escape routes to just run away. So yeah.
That is shocking. Lastly, very quickly, where do you go next? What's your next sector focus? Or perhaps you shouldn't be announcing it because you just told me what happens.
Yeah. We shouldn't be announcing it, but it's both ways. Even if you announce or you don't announce, I mean, we've been long in this business. We know the ins and outs, and we have a way of also accumulating information and profiling a sector even before we go there. Just watch the space. Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you for your insights. That's Egi Muyilwa, the Inspector General at the Department of Employment and Labour, reporting back after that 4-day blitz that they undertook. They've produced a report. You should take a look at it and see some of the figures that they've compiled in terms of non-compliance with various laws in the restaurants sector.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy backlogs getting into Sandton from the Mike 1 Highway. We've been telling you about the extensive amount of closures that are down around the bottom of Sandton, routes like Catherine, parts of Ravonia, West 5th, Pybus as well. But it looks like this morning there may be a closure coming in off Grayston onto Catherine. There's a really big backlog of traffic coming off the highway, off the Mike 1 Highway, onto Grayston, around to Linden, then a sort of loop around through to Daisy Street. So if you're going into Sandton, coming off the highway, that is already jam-packed. The other pinch point as we get through the morning will be the run-up through Ilovo on Ravonia Road. You basically come straight into that racetrack section as you arrive into Sandton from Ilovo. So just make sure you've got plenty of time to get through it. The Mike 1's fairly heavily back now from Boyston through to Parktown. Crash on the M2 east at Cleveland, just starting to slow things up. And if you come out of Rampart Ridge, there's no light still on Huntskuman and Rabi. So that's sort of the extension of Easterhout, I guess. It's beg your pardon, it's Huntskuman and Ostrich just past Rabi, so quite a backlog on your way through to the Randburg area. Durban bound out of Pietermaritzburg, a stationary truck to watch for at Ashburton, that's slowing things up. Cape Town fairly heavy on the highways, going through the city centre, the N1 from Pataklaville, the N2 from the airport. There's also a disruption for truckers going in and out of Cape Town with the Huguenot Tunnel being closed. That's due to high, strong crosswinds at the viaduct section just outside the tunnel. So if you're driving a truck or a high-sided vehicle, maybe even a caravan, you'll be diverted on the old road to Toys Kloof Pass, and that's fairly busy with the additional traffic routing that side. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The wait is finally over, and we can safely say that Tropica Island of Treasure is back to serve you some really great entertainment. Tune into S3 from the 28th of September to cheer on the 7 teams who will be vying to win a shared prize of 1 million rand, a brand new car each, and become the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure Season 11. Fancy 50,000 bucks? Predict the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure, and you might be sipping that cold, refreshing Tropica all the way to the bank. Follow at MyTropica and at SABC3 for more information. Channel your inner champion with Tropica Island of Treasure. Starts Saturday the 28th of September at 6:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3. So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish, see if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
6 minutes to 7. Let's turn to this story now. The National Taxi Alliance says it welcomes the drop in fuel prices as this will bring relief to the transport industry. Fuel prices have dropped across all grades of diesel and petrol, effective from the 1st of October. The association says, however, that the industry is nowhere near profitable margins because there is no subsidy for taxis in the country. The association says it hopes for further decreases in the fuel price. I'm joined now by Theo Malele, who is the National Taxi Alliance's spokesperson. Good morning to you, Theo. I've got to thank you for your time. So, just in terms of the fuel price drop that we saw this month, it follows others that have come in previous months. What does that translate to for you as a sector that uses, fuels such as petrol and diesel as one of your inputs?
Good morning to you and to the listeners. Thanks for having me. It is indeed welcomed. This fifth consecutive decrease to us heralds a much, sought after relief. We've been under tremendous pressure, as you'd appreciate that, fuel as an input cost, and as soon as fuel goes up, even the prices of commodities goes up, and so is the price of, spares, and we have, association fees to contend with, licensing fees, and all the rest. And that has been very, very, heavy on us. And we welcome this, and we would like to see more of this happening for us to be able to sort of start breathing a little bit better.
So can commuters expect taxi prices to start decreasing in the coming months?
Well, it all depends. If the fuel, keeps on, dropping in terms of its price, yes, we may have to relook at our fares and try and see where how possible it would be for us to adjust these fares.
Because I ask you because, experience shared anecdotally at least by commuters is that even when the fuel price comes down over consecutive months, such that the decrease in fuel price is quite significant, the taxi fares determined by your member associations just never come down from the hike. So when there's a hike, you go up, but when there's a decline in the prices, you don't follow it.
Maybe a similar trend, it's evidenced with maybe, let's say, a loaf of bread. It also goes up, but never comes down. Does it ever come down when the fuel price comes down?
Well, your industry is a bit different because the big input cost that you and I agree is a big input cost is determined on a month-to-month basis, and there are instances where it's going up and up, and everyone understands you end up hiking your fares. But then there are instances where it's on the downward trend, and the anecdotal experience I'm sharing with you is that commuters saying that you go up when it's in a cycle that's going up, but never come down when the cycle is downward. I think it's a more industry-specific question that I'm asking you.
No, very true. Very, very, very true. But if you look at the majority public transport mover, which is our good selves, we with no subsidies on site at all. We've been under tremendous pressure. Maybe you could be saying this to the, small, or rather the buses and trains,
sure,
who enjoy the biggest chunk of subsidies, but who do not in return also concede to these declines as the prices come down.
I hear you.
So if we were being assisted, then the question would be fair, for us, because the playing fields would be normalized. But as you appreciate that the playing fields in the country are such that the majority public transport mover is actually being treated as a stepchild of the public transport.
So this question of the subsidy, as you raise it, has been a long-standing grievance of yours as an industry. Is there even a conversation that is being had about the possibility and what it would look like if it were to be implemented?
Well, since the dawn of democracy, we've been crying out loud for assistance in that regard, and all the ministries seemed to be not listening to apply it. But the current ministry has shown a much greater appetite as we engaged with them, and they have promised to look into this aspect and ensure that they actually bring about these anomalies to end.
All right. Thank you for that, Theo Malele. At least it would seem that there's at least a glimmer of hope that the conversation can be had about the grievance of the taxi industry, about the lack of a subsidy that would make them to be sustainable as a sector that moves the bulk of commuters, public transport commuters in South Africa. Theo Malele there is the National Taxi Alliance spokesperson, and that brings us to 7 a.m. Let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, police probe a double murder at an informal settlement in Primrose, and South Africa urges parties in the Middle East conflict to exercise restraint. Good morning. Police are investigating a double murder case in the Makose informal settlement in Primrose, eastern Johannesburg. 2 people were gunned down and the vehicle set alight. The victims are believed to have been shot multiple times before the vehicle was torched. Gauteng Police spokesperson Dimakatso Nebuhulwi.
The victims are not yet identified and the circumstances surrounding the incident are unknown at this stage, pending police investigations. Anyone with information that can assist with the investigation is requested to contact the Crime Stop line at 08600 10111.
Municipal authorities in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape say the families of the victims of the 2 mass shootings in Ngobazana village have set aside Saturday and Sunday next weekend for the funerals of their loved ones. The families have rejected government's offer to arrange mass funerals. The incidents happened last weekend. The councillor Tandazile Mgudu says a mass memorial service for the deceased will be held this Sunday.
The Matu family funeral will be on the 12th. The funeral for the other families at Dimvi and Malangeni will be on the 12th as well, while the funeral for the Ndleleni family here at Ngobozana village will be on the 13th. We will no longer have the mass funeral because families have requested that they bury their loved ones on their preferred dates. The only thing we will do as government is the mass memorial service, which will be held at the college this coming Sunday.
The South African National Small Bus Operator Council in the Northwest says the Provincial Community Safety and Transport Management Department's failure to pay scholar transport operators on time is crippling their businesses. The council's concern comes as schools reopened for the 4th term and ahead of the matric final exams. The department has not paid scholar transport operators for more than 6 months. The council's provincial chairperson, Final Khudumo, says this is worrying.
The situation is alarming, with some operators going unpaid for 6 months and more, leading to financial strains, potential liquidation and contract terminations, and learners not going to school. These delays hinder operators' ability to pay drivers, maintain buses and adhere to operational standards. Furthermore, we are seeing unnecessary operating license delays by provincial regulatory entity, PRI, while traffic officers continue to issue hefty fines of 2,500 and even impounding buses for operating license.
Meanwhile, the Northwest Legislature's Portfolio Committee on Community Safety and Transport Management's chairperson, Freddy Sonakile, says they'll request that the MEC vessels Murweng provide information on steps taken to resolve the issue.
We always insist that the department must fulfill its contractual obligations by ensuring prompt payments to service providers who have rendered services in accordance with contract terms. And also, failure to process payments within 30 days not only contravenes the Public Finance Management Act, but also disrupts the operations of businesses, ultimately affecting the delivery of quality scholar transport services. We have formally requested MEC Vessels Murweng to provide a detailed explanation for these challenges and outline the steps being taken to resolve the issue.
The South African government has called on all parties in the Middle East conflict to exercise restraint. This after Iran launched a barrage of missiles towards Israel, retaliating against Israel's attack in Lebanon. Pretoria says it's concerned about the latest developments. Kailihle Kumalo has more.
The government of South Africa says is gravely concerned about the continuing escalation of military action by Israel on Palestine and Lebanon, as well as subsequent response by Iran. Pretoria says the international community and the United Nations Security Council must address the spiraling conflict. South African authorities have noted with dismay Israel's decision to ban United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres from setting foot in Israel.
Recapping the top story, police are investigating a double murder case in the Makosi informal settlement in Primrose, Eastern Johannesburg. 2 people were gunned down and the vehicle set alight. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out. Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about Outsurance.
My name is Alan. I'm 71 years of age and I live in Douglasdale. I'm paying 554 Rand a month for my 2022 Nissan Magnite.
Want a car insurance premium that'll blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote. That's out to 30754. It's quick, it's easy, and it could save you hundreds of rands every month. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Top story is the big traffic that's building into Sandton this morning. Coming off the Mike 1 highway onto Grayston Drive, having to loop around to Linden. There's some restrictions on Catherine from Grayston, all ahead of this weekend's F1 event. There is a racetrack busy being constructed in central Sandton, and that's why you've got to close not only Catherine, but West 5th, parts of Pybus and Ravonia as well. But it really is that enormous backlog coming in off the highway. The highway ramps are now queuing in both directions just to get into Grayston Drive, and it's very slow around through that closure, Catherine, and around to Linden. Crash on the M2 heading out of Joburg through to Jermiston. That collision just by the just before you get to Cleveland, so it's a bit of a wait to get through there today. Pietermaritzburg to Durban, the stationary truck around the Ashburton area has finally been cleared. And yesterday when you drove home, sat in horrible traffic on Marine Drive getting out of Cape Town towards Tableview due to faulty lights at Racecourse Road. They've been fixed up, but Marine Drive stays heavy from around Bayside Mall through to the second set of lights at Sunset Beach. Also the N7 worth a mention is pretty heavy from Vangate Mall passing Langa on your way to Beaufort Circle at Epping. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's cricket. The Proteas women's seam bowler Ayabonga Kaka, her 5-wicket heroics have set the tone for the Proteas women's World Cup campaign. And tennis action, Carlos Alcaraz, he came from a set down to edge out the world number 1 Yannick Sinner in a dramatic China Open final. All the details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 7 on this Thursday. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. It's all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your Morning Brief. Coming up in this hour, it doesn't rain, it pours for the Mulin local municipality. Recently, we told you about Eskom obtaining an order to attach some of the municipality's bank accounts in lieu of unpaid debt of about 8 billion rand. Get this, if municipalities across the country owe Eskom some 82 billion rand, 10% of that is accounted for, we are told, by Mulin in the form of 8 billion rand. So Eskom moved to have the accounts attached, and now the municipality has now failed to pay salaries of workers for the month of September. The municipality blames the failure to pay salaries on that attachment order obtained by Eskom and the execution thereof. So we'll be in conversation with a senior official from the Mulin local municipality. In fact, the MMC for Finance is scheduled to speak to us in the next few minutes. We'll also continue to focus on the issue of violence and violent crime in rural areas and provinces like KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape. Of course, the context and grim backdrop for that is the recent mass killing of 18 people in Thulasizwe. We'll get some insights for you in a conversation that we have lined up within this half hour. Of course, we are taking your calls throughout the morning, and the number to dial for that is 086 000 2032. We'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes and interact and engage with them, and that number is 061 410 4107. The second hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Masandawana ladies want to rubber stamp their authority with maximum points to stay on the summit. But Copperbelt ladies want to fight with all they have to move away from the bottom half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game, Mamelodi Sundowns Ladies FC versus Copperbelt Ladies FC on Saturday, 5 October at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
My business is very stressful. Construction and plumbing, anything can go wrong. The reason I chose Outsurance because they align with my vision with regards to customer service. The fact that they won the award for Best Business Insurance makes me feel like I'm in the right hands.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Africa from Within follows the journey of our anchor presenters who travel to various locations in order to delve into the inner workings and untold stories of the unsung heroes. At its core, Africa from Within is all about grassroots storytelling and the showcasing of the conservation contributions of ordinary people to Africa. It aims to engage and entertain viewers, educate and promote conservation, and inspire viewers to value our natural heritage. Don't miss Africa from Within on SABC2 every Friday at 7 p.m.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So let's focus on governance at the local government level. The Mulin local municipality has not paid salaries for the month of September. The municipality blames its failure to pay salaries on Eskom, attaching 4 of its bank accounts. The attachment follows the municipality's failure to pay the power utility for electricity supply. Let's speak now to Hassan Mako, who is the Mulin MMC for Finance. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. So what an utter mess this situation is. What's the status now in terms of the payment of salaries of employees in Mulin?
Good morning to Thulasizwe and good morning to the listeners of SAFM. Yes, I can indeed confirm that we were unable to process salaries on the 25th of September due to the attachment of the bank account. However, I can confirm that the account was uplifted yesterday and we started paying salaries as of yesterday. And some of the employees are still receiving their salaries even this morning. We started at around 4 o'clock in the morning to ensure that we actually process those payments and ensure that at least by midday we have completed that particular run. And of course, you have explained it thoroughly. This is because of the rate of execution that Eskom had received, the 2018 rate of execution. However, over and above, we are opening a new chapter. There was a forum of the ministers, the MECs, the Premier, including the local municipality and the leadership of ESCOM, whereby we have signed a distribution agency agreement, which will ensure that we harness our relationship with ESCOM and we are able to work together without resolving these matters in the court of law.
So if I hear you correctly, and you're not stating it, quite outrightly, but I'm reading between the lines, you being given access to your accounts to be able to pay salaries as of yesterday is not a result of you paying as per the payment arrangement you've had with ESCOM all along. It is the result of you engaging in some political forum that involved other stakeholders.
Thulasizwe, you would remember that Mulin local municipality was one of the municipalities, or is one of the municipalities that is part of the National Treasury Debt Relief Program, and we can indeed confirm that we are still part. So it was not necessarily a political platform only. We also had to deal with the nitty-gritties of the debt relief program, the conditions thereof, and yes, of course, we were unable to meet the current account, but 80% of the conditions we were able to meet, but we were unable to meet some of the current accounts, and this is because of the winter tariffs, of course, which sometimes is higher, vis-a-vis what we collect on the ground and our total expenditure, our cost drivers, and so forth.
I hear that, but what I'm asking, maybe let me ask it more directly. Did you pay any amounts to ESCOM, and was those amounts adequate for ESCOM to say, we are happy to now let you have access to the accounts?
No. We have not made any payment. However, there is money that has been segregated from what we had in the municipal account, which will obviously speak to the monthly payment that we're supposed to do. And of course, that was communicated with the sheriff of the court yesterday to say, release the amount of salaries, keep this particular amount. After having resolved the dispute, then we can be able to move forward and see how do we then work with the utility, with the power utility.
You say having resolved the dispute. Is there a dispute between yourself and ESCOM, or is it a matter of you not honoring a payment arrangement that had been in place? Because that was our understanding that at the point at which ESCOM attached the accounts, it was because they felt your non-compliance with the payment arrangement was actually putting their own finances in jeopardy.
Look, Thulasizwe, like I'm telling you, the writ of execution that was used was obtained in 2018. This debt has been growing since then. And of course, the National Treasury saw the municipalities that were not honoring their current accounts. And this then meant that we were supposed to go into a debt relief program, more like a rehabilitation program. And there were conditions set out in the debt relief program. We have met some of those conditions. Unfortunately, the most burning condition was the one to meet the current account. And we could not meet that because of the low collection rate. And there are various factors as to why we were unable to collect the much needed revenue to meet the current account. Of course, you'd remember that the issues of NMDs, your notified maximum demand, where they were penalized for having allowed so many illegal connections, and which is something that we need to have a conversation with our residents to say that the more illegal connections we have, is the more ESCOM will definitely punish us as a municipality.
Would you accept that the low collection rate that you keep talking about is actually a failure on your part? Municipalities have the wherewithal to collect, and in fact, many municipalities enforce collection mechanisms while also having the indigent policies, of course, being in place, but they do collect. Your low collection rate is a factor of your own failures as an administration. So you're actually the authors of this disastrous situation you find yourselves in.
No, not necessarily to Thulasizwe. You would remember that this area is sitting at around 60% unemployment rate. This is one of the serious factors that has been affecting our collection rate. But we had to come up with mitigating factors such as your indigent program, and we do have such indigent drives. It's looking good. We have started, and of course, stimulating the economy is also quite significant, because for failure for our people to get jobs, it will mean that they will continuously fail to pay for their rates and taxes. And of course, we are also introducing incentive schemes so that we are able to retain them. Right. Not that we want to punish them, but we want to have a fair share as to how can we mitigate this particular situation that we're faced with.
Lastly, Mr. Mako, I'm also worried about the other big utility that supplies you with a service, Rand Water, Rand Water. What's your status there? How much do you owe them? And could we face a similar situation where they now feel that what you owe them is unsustainable for them to keep carrying?
We owe Rand Water just under 1 billion, probably 900 million, but it is not a threat to us, because we had a conversation with Rand Water. We are establishing a special purpose vehicle whereby whatever it is that we owe them will now be part of the special purpose vehicle, where our water utility and Rand Water will be working together and will be having investors, so that we are able to close all the particular challenges we do. Your normal metering, we're able to collect what is due to us. We close all the distribution losses in as far as leaks are concerned.
Yeah. All right. Mr. Mako, I've got to thank you for your time. And it's interesting how, it's relative, of course, given what you owe Eskom and what you owe Rand Water, but just interesting how you consider 1 billion Rand to not be so bad. It's that conversation again that one of the callers was raising yesterday, talking about, the idea of 1 billion Rand, that in this country, sometimes we treat it like, it's a mere 1 Rand or something. Yeah. So that's Hassan Mako there, who is the Mfuleni MMC for Finance, outlining what the situation is with their finances.
4 dynamic design duos reimagine and reinvent 4 apartments in a century-old building nestled in the vibrant suburb of Sea Point, Cape Town. Armed with creativity, determination, and a limited budget, the duos fight against the clock to transform this grand old dame into a contemporary masterpiece, all under the critical eyes of an expert judging panel. The winning duo will claim a grand prize of 300,000 Rand, with an additional 100,000 Rand going to the fan favorite team, as voted by viewers. Channel your inner wow with My Design Rules, Sundays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3. Becoming Elizabeth is the fascinating story of the early life of England's most iconic queen. With no clear heir, the death of King Henry VIII sets into motion a dangerous scramble for power. Elizabeth's fascinating and factual journey to secure the crown is filled with scheming, betrayal, and illicit relationships that threaten to bring forth her demise. At a time in which every man or woman of the court is on the wheel of fortune, which may take them to a position of great power one moment, or the executioner's block the next. Channel your inner royalty with Becoming Elizabeth, Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
22 minutes after 7 on this Thursday, let's turn to this story now. Violence is prevalent in rural areas in provinces like KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape. The recent mass killing of 18 people in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape has pushed this reality into the spotlight. Rural areas typically do not have adequate policing and poor infrastructure, of course, making it difficult to fight crime. Let's get some insights. Mary De Haas is a violence violence monitoring expert and has been at it for many, many years, particularly in the area of KwaZulu-Natal. Good morning to you, Mary. Thank you for your time. So I just want to start with a broad observation on your part, what the shooting, the mass killing that happened in Lusikisiki reveals about safety issues in rural communities.
Good morning, everybody. Look, safety issues in rural areas have been a very, very long-standing concern. You know, we hear about farmers getting killed, and I was on a committee that researched that 20 years ago. But the point is that farmers are at risk because of rural lack of safety for ordinary rural people. Huge problem. I mean, I can speak about that in KZN. I mean, these mass shootings highlight it, but it is ongoing. You don't hear about most of these. You know, the roads are bad. The police stations are a long way away. Sometimes, a lot of the time, the police stations are not doing their job properly. And I mean, one of the things I've argued for before is, well, because, you know, I mean, if you're a long way from a police station, the road is bad. What about mounted police? I don't know why we are not looking at mounted police in bad areas, in rural areas. Now, I don't know a lot about the Eastern Cape, but I hear from farmers there, it's a big area, of course, and variable, that the police are often part of the problem. They're implicated in stock theft, and people who can afford it, of course, use private security companies. We should not be doing that. We are paying the police to prevent crime. That's their constitutional duty. And I mean, this gun violence is just, you know, I mean, it's always been there. We have to do something about the gun situation.
Yeah. And Mary, as you raised this issue of mounted police, I did not express it, but it's one of the ideas that has been on my mind to say that in areas where accessibility is an issue, availability of vehicles is an issue, you know, you should be diversifying all-terrain vehicles and using modern technology. It seems to me to be quite so obvious. But as you read these policing strategies to the extent that they talk to rural communities, do you see any of that thinking starting to come through or emerging as something that the authorities are seriously looking at?
Look, I mean, I hope the new police minister will. I think he will look at issues of policy. And I mean, we have a problem. The problem starts with the police, quite frankly. It's not just rural safety. I mean, the wrong people are in management leadership, nepotism rules. I mean, as one senior police person said to me the other day, well, you know, we know he's going to get those positions before the interviews even take place. Now, I mean, you get the wrong people in management. I mean, I've dealt with rural management in KZN, and some of it is absolutely atrocious. You don't get responses. There's no accountability. I mean, I can't speak. I mean, I more or less know and can find out. I mean, policing in some parts of KZN, for example, in rural areas is better than others. I think that's probably much the same in most of the country. So I think it starts with policing, and the first place you start is crime intelligence. It's, you know, I mean, people, you know, just look at it this way. Why do you think apartheid was so efficient at tracking down underground operatives? Because they had an absolutely efficient crime intelligence system. They had informers everywhere. Our crime intelligence system has virtually collapsed. We don't know where the money's going. If there's one thing that I wish all these Government of National Unity partners would push, it's for the President to sign the State Security Bill, because it is absolutely imperative to give the Inspector General of Intelligence more powers. And he's dragging his heels, and that's dangerous, because if you have operatives in crime intelligence who are there just to do political things and not to monitor what's going on in safety, it's not difficult. I mean, you have, in the past, you had informers at every station level, but you had to have trustworthy police, otherwise the informers would get killed. Now, the money for informers seems to have dried up, and no one's going to risk their lives if they're not going to get paid properly for it. They, you know, people know what's going on in their communities. People tell me this. Ordinary people I deal with in communities, urban and rural, tell me about who the police go to the local drug dealers. They know who's who. They know who's got guns sometimes. They're too scared to go to the police because they don't trust the police.
I want to ask you about the prevalence of automatic rifles in rural communities. Is there a dynamic that has shifted there, Mary, such that there's accessibility, ease of accessibility that is perhaps linked to certain sectors in urban areas, in hostels, within the taxi industry and the likes, such that it's all feeding into each other now?
Look, absolutely. You must remember, I mean, when I was down at a conference in Cape Town a few years ago, one of the academics said, I think it's people from your province that are burning our trains. And I mean, that's probably true because these long-distance taxi operators act. We know that with what's happening with the attacks on the buses and the actions that are being taken there. You must remember, in 1994, there were stacks of guns. I mean, I did some research about 20 years ago, and looking at court and TRC records, there were about 50 caches of guns in KZN, a lot of them coming from the apartheid era, the homelands, and also some, of course, brought in by the liberation movements. Those gun caches have not been accounted for. They also kept coming in from Mozambique. I hear they come in from Lesotho. Now, again, it gets back to policing. Now, yes, indeed, we know, I mean, in Cleveland's hostel, we had police guns used. So that's the other thing, guns go missing from the police. So there's got to be some sort of audit. And the rural areas are full of them, including these automatic, semi-automatic. Now, and the security industry is badly regulated. So we have to start with some sort of audit. And if you look at I'll give you one example. The people in Somkela near Mtuba are fighting an ongoing battle to stop the expansion of mining. They're getting threatening calls because they won't move, and they're getting shots fired into their yards at night. One guy picks up the cartridge and it's police or military issue. Now, we've got to start with some sort of audit of guns. I think this minister must appoint a body. Even in the police, we're lacking. I mean, I was told, somebody sent me something about the guy who gave evidence for ballistics in the Maiwa case, and he hasn't even properly qualified for the job.
I've got to leave it there,
we need to look seriously at it.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's Mary De Haas, who is a violence monitoring expert there, just giving us an outline of some of the issues at play in rural safety and policing in this country, and bringing us to 29 minutes to 8, and it's time now to check in with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, lobby group AfriForum has called on the DA and the Freedom Front Plus to reconsider their positions in the Government of National Unity if the Bella Act is not amended. Police are investigating a double murder case in the Makause informal settlement in Primrose, Eastern Johannesburg. 2 people were gunned down and the vehicle set alight. And Prince Harry has visited many community projects in Lesotho. Prince Seisu and some directors of multinational companies wanting to invest in community development projects in Southern Africa accompanied him. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy backlogs coming in from Lenasia, Protea Glen into Joburg. Been a crash on the N12. It is just after the Golden Highway exit to Eldorado Park before you get to the N1 bend join. So coming through, passing the bottom of Soweto, top of Lenasia, that is quite heavy. Santon under pressure this morning with road closures through the Santon CBD ahead of this weekend's F1 Red Bull showrun event. There's closure at Catherine from Greyston. So if you're going into Santon off the Mike 1 Highway onto Greyston Drive, that is super heavily backed up. You've got to sort of go around to Linden and then cut back through Daisy and go in the top end of Santon. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get through that. Four Ways quite busy. Willie Mandela coming out of Four Ways from Vidcop and all the way through the highway down towards Bryanston Drive. Very heavy backlogging going on there today. Durban, the N2 North from the M7 through Westwood Mall. That's fairly heavy. M7 into Pinetown. Still no lights at St John's Avenue, so that's desperate. Cape Town Marine Drive. The lights at Racecourse Road, I believe, are fixed up. There was a chaos yesterday getting home. It's sort of normalised this morning. Table View to Sunset Beach stays busy. And the N7 jammed up passing Lunga. Delays up to Beaufort Circle in Epping. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning once again. I see that the cricket at Proteas women, the World Cup campaign starts tomorrow, and ahead of that, some good signs being shown by players like Ayabonga Kaka.
Oh, Thulas, you know the Proteas women are going to bring the fire tomorrow. Ayabonga Kaka, man, she's been bowling like she's on a mission. 5 wickets in the final and last warm-up against India. And I'm going to love to see her take action tomorrow when they take on the West Indies. So we've had 2 warm-up losses. But you know what? We've had a T20 series win against Pakistan, which has set a solid foundation. And that 5-wicket haul from Ayabonga Kaka against India is definitely going to spur the Proteas women on. So looking forward to that action tomorrow. First ball being bowled around 2 p.m. Just cannot wait. And we saw the men, the Protea men, they were in action yesterday. Ryan Rickleton's brilliant knock of 91, helping guide the Proteas to a comfortable 139-run win over Ireland in the first ODI of their 3-match series. South Africa posted 271 for 9 after a rocky start, with Rickleton and Tristan Stubbs rebuilding the innings with a solid 152-run partnership. And then the Proteas bowlers took charge. Lazard Williams leading the attack, taking 4 for 32. Lungi Ngidi picking up 2 wickets. Ireland bowled out for 132 in just 32 overs. Let's go to the other news coming in. Scotland women saying they want to inspire the next generation in their first appearance at the Women's T20 World Cup. Scotland will face Bangladesh, West Indies, as well as our beloved Proteas, and England in Group B of the competition, which is being held in the United Arab Emirates. Soccer, Orlando Pirates and Namibian international utility player Dion Hotto has credited head coach Jose Rivero for transforming his football in the past 3 years. Now, speaking to the media as part of the build-up to the MTN8 final against Stellenbosch FC at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban this coming weekend, Hotto's exploits for Pirates have benefited not only his club, but also his national team. At the AFCON earlier this year in Cote d'Ivoire, Hotto helped the Brave Warriors reach the second round and was their best player in the tournament. The 33-year-old talks about the importance of patience.
All right, Zai, it seems we do not have that ready for you. Let's move on to the next one.
Thank you. Ancelot becoming the first Liverpool manager to win 8 of his opening 9 matches, as Mo Salah's brilliant strike sealed a 2-0 victory against Bologna. Aston Villa beat Bayern Munich 1-0, and Ademola Lookman starred as Atalanta claimed a comfortable 3-0 victory over Shakhtar Donetsk. And tennis action, Carlos Alcaraz came back from a set down to beat the world number 1 Yannick Sinner in a thriller and win his first China Open title. The 4-time Grand Slam champion from Spain edged a captivating final 6-7, 6-4, 7-6. And finally golf, South African golf sensation Christo Lamprecht has earned a coveted spot at the prestigious Nedbank Golf Challenge hosted at the iconic Gary Player Country Club in Sun City from the 5th to the 8th of December. This opportunity, it follows Lamprecht's historic recognition as the inaugural recipient of the Gary Player International Golfer of the Year award presented by FlightScope, an accolade that is now closely tied to the Nedbank Golf Challenge. That's where we leave it for now on the golf course. We'll bring you more sport on the morning brief at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
All right, let's turn to Ndauleng Lechela for that. Good morning to you once again, Ndauleng. I can't even remember the last time I handled a lot of cash. I always say cash makes me anxious. I don't know why. I start sweating. I see that the Reserve Bank supports people like me who just can't do cash.
Thulas, I have to agree. I generally do not know the last time I have cash. I literally don't even know when the last time I had a card because I use my phone for everything.
Okay, now you're showing off.
The Reserve Bank has noted that cash remains king in South Africa. In an address at the SARB's 2024 Payments Conference, Governor Lesesha Kganyago noted that South Africans are over-reliant on cash, with almost half of the adult population withdrawing all their money as soon as it's deposited into their bank account. This is despite the growing availability of digital payment alternatives, such as mobile and cardless payment technologies. And so the governor and his team are urging local consumers to move further away from cash on the road to digital payments. The SARB says it aims to reduce the country's reliance on cash through its payments ecosystem modernization program. This initiative will develop a public payment system prioritizing security measures and fraud prevention. Kganyago stressed that the goal is to create a payment system for all South Africans, regardless of location or socio-economic status. Countries like Brazil and India have successfully implemented digital payment systems such as PIX and Unified Payments Interface, which enable instant, low-cost transactions using cell phone numbers or QR codes. And Kganyago hopes to replicate this success in South Africa. This would then promote a more inclusive and efficient payment landscape.
So, in industry news, you are telling us that the M&A activity has intensified in the mining sector in the past 12 months. That's interesting.
So, miners might be dealing with falling metal prices, but it still seems like they still have some cash to seal some deals. Big miners are scrambling for green metal assets. According to a recent PwC report, the mining sector experienced a surge in merger and acquisitions over the past year, driven by companies adding transition metals, particularly copper, to their portfolios. This trend is fueled by the global demand for critical minerals, especially as the world transitions to a low-carbon economy and clean energy solutions. The report revealed the sector recorded 32 deals worth nearly 174 billion rand in the 12 months leading up to June, a substantial increase from what was recorded in 2023 and 2022. Copper and gold have been primary focus minerals globally, with South African companies also seeking to capitalize on the trend. Despite the surge in M&A activity, experts caution that the continuation of this trend is uncertain given the challenges faced by the mining industry. Now, Andries Rousseau, who's PwC Africa's Energy, Utilities and Resources leader, said the last year has been challenging for the local mining industry, with commodity prices under pressure leading to lower revenue and profits. However, Rousseau adds that market conditions have been favorable for deals, with companies that are generally not under financial pressure sealing a number of deals.
Please give us a recap of the markets, the US closed, Asia, as well as how the JSE closed yesterday.
Kicking things off in Asia, those markets trading mixed. Hong Kong stocks fell for the first time in 7 days as the market rally driven by China's stimulus injection ran out of gas. The Hang Seng down 2.2%. The Japanese Nikkei trading in the opposite direction, gaining 2%. Meanwhile, in Wall Street, futures are in the red, reversing yesterday's slight gains. Those markets shrugging off the upbeat labor market print that we got yesterday. Back at home, stocks in positive territory with the JSE posting gains, the all-share closing near 0.6% higher. Shifting focus to currencies, the local unit losing gains, trading at 17.41 to the dollar as caution prevails following that fallout in the Middle East.
All right, let's leave it there for now. Ndauleng Lechela will be back with one more update for you of the news about the economy, business, as well as the markets here at home and globally. That update coming from Ndauleng just after 8:30 and just ahead of the opening of the JSE for trade today.
The wait is finally over, and we can safely say that Tropica Island of Treasure is back to serve you some really great entertainment. Tune into S3 from the 28th of September to cheer on the 7 teams who will be vying to win a shared prize of 1 million rand, a brand new car each, and become the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure Season 11. Fancy 50,000 bucks? Predict the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure and you might be sipping that cold, refreshing Tropica all the way to the bank. Follow at MyTropica and at SABC3 for more information. Channel your inner champion with Tropica Island of Treasure. Starts Saturday the 28th of September at 6:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3. Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. You love drama? Then step into the world of Luther as he cracks down on criminals terrorizing the streets of London Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Top Gear will have you falling in love and rolling in laughter as Jeremy Clarkson and his team take you on an automotive journey like no other, Monday to Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3.
Africa Update on SAFM.
For that, let's turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you, Russ. We start in the east of the continent, in Djibouti, and it's sad news coming out of there. One of those stories you don't like to read about people dying at sea trying to reach Europe.
Refreshing morning, Thulas and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, Thulas, when you look at the issue of the migrants in the continent and globally, just that when you look at the two vessels that were carrying, not only African migrants, Thulas, you have the Middle Eastern and Southern Asian citizens who are also trying to go to Europe for better life. And what has happened now, the International Organization of the Migration of the UN have said that 45 people have died and 115 rescued in this operation. And that was in the northwest part of Djibouti. That's where this vessel was passing through to Europe. And as you have said, these are the challenges that Africans and other migrants from other parts of the globe have been facing in terms of dying in the seas.
Yeah. And this is cheesy, even by my own standards. You remember the song Return of the Mac? In Senegal, that's what they are seeking to do. Macky Sall wants to come back.
Remember, it's the parliamentary elections next month in November that after Bassirou Faye dissolved parliament, that we are pushed to have legislative elections. Now, the coalition in Senegal has named Macky Sall as its leading candidate, while PASTEF party has backed Ousmane Sonko, the current prime minister, to be the one leading them in the National Assembly. Like we said, interesting times, the return of the Mac of the former president Macky Sall into the legislative elections of Senegal.
I couldn't resist. Staying with election news, Mozambique, that election is coming up on the 9th of October, and you're watching that particular election and the key issues that are facing that country.
Thulas, we are counting 6 days from now that on the 9th, Mozambique decides on the presidential and legislative elections. Key issues: Islamist insurgency in the north part, Cabo Delgado. You look at the stalled gas projects. It's one of the issues. The debt scandal of the tuna bond that involved senior Frelimo members, including the former president Nyusi. It has been one of the issues. The climate shocks, the cyclones that are in Mozambique are key issues, but also how to sustain the peace agreement between Renamo and Frelimo. This is what is key to us. I might have raised this one as the core, but the substantive one are still issues of economic growth, youth unemployment, and dealing, like I said, with the Cabo Delgado insurgency.
Yeah, and then let's go to Zambia, where I see that the former president is now has some words to say to the current president, HH.
Yeah, you see, Lunga today is having a full trial again. Same election story to us that he wants to contest the 2026 elections, but they are saying you have served your 2 terms. But he said no. When the King Cobra Michael Sata was in power, I came in as a acting president in 2015, so I still need to taste or to have a bite for my second term. Now Lungu is saying Hakainde is using the same tricks of now not allowing him. He says he's using the law warfare, not allowing him to contest this election election. So this trial is starting today, and you can see Thulas has been gloves off because Hakainde has already seized 15 luxury flats of the wife of Edgar Lunga last week on the issues of corruption. So you can see it is a tussle between the former president and the current sitting president in Zambia, Lusaka.
The politics of Zambia, always fascinating and robust. Lastly, Sipho, your historical archives, you're taking us to the 3rd of October 1935, an interesting development involving Ethiopia.
Thulas, our learners who are studying social science and history, they will never miss this one. We talk of the Italian invasion of Ethiopia, Benito Mussolini in 1935, 89 years ago. This is the beginning of what we say the scramble of Africa as the return of Italy after they were defeated in 1896 in the Battle of Adowa, but also in the 1934 Battle of Italy and Abyssinia. So what Mussolini was doing, he was trying to revenge, but others are saying Ethiopia was able to stand that test of time and became a champion in African struggle because it was never colonized, it was briefly invaded on this day in 1935. Asante sana Thulas, as was in the conversation, SAFM observing the Africa Human Rights Month.
Have a great day, Sipho. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update here on The Morning Brief.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Two real standout queues around Joburg today. One is the run out of the Four Ways area. Loads of traffic lights down, including this morning, Winnie Mandela and Bryanston Drive. So if you're leaving Four Ways, it's backed up significantly from Vickoppen Road down through Monte Cassino and Leslie through the highway with no lights and all the way down towards Bryanston Drive, which is another set of lights out. There's a lot of congestion on Winnie Mandela going across the highway, so the highway backlogging both ways. The other big story is the closures, the extensive closures in place around Santon ahead of this weekend's Red Bull F1 event. Routes like Catherine, Fifth West, parts of Pybus and Ravonia are all closed. There's, again, just enormous congestion around sort of Greyston Drive at the Mike 1. You've got major delays coming in from Weinberg side on Arkwright over the bridge onto Greyston. You've got heavy pressure on the Mike 1 down to the Greyston off-ramps. You've even got motorists now going further south and clogging up Corlett Drive as a sort of alternative route to get off the highway going south into Santon to avoid Greyston Drive. Santon basically is a big mess. Make sure you got plenty of time to get through it all this morning. Traffic lights down Republic and Malabongwe, so some extra delays on that Randburg side as well. And a crash at Cleveland. This might be a secondary crash this morning, still causing some delays coming out of Joburg towards Germiston. Durban, a crash in the M7, St John's, or the M7 Edwin Swales Drive around South Coast Road. So there's some delays going to and from the Bluff area there. Up to St John's Avenue into Pinetown, still no lights. It's a big backlog on the M7 as far back as Hans Stettman Drive this morning. And Cape Town, the lights that caught you out last night on Marine Drive at Racecourse Road have been fixed up, but it's the usual sort of backlogs through Sunset Beach this morning. The main road going south at St James is quite busy, and Baden-Powell largely clear of sand, but there's a whole pile of traffic heading towards Stellenbosch on Baden-Powell, just queuing up towards the N2 Highway Bridge. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
For 18 years, Kumbulekaya has been fostering healing through forgiveness and reconciliation.
Are you asking me that?
Yes.
I grew up without a mom.
So what happened to your family?
What family? You are my family. What happened to you?
Witness as families forgive one another and reunite after a long time. Catch the new season of Kumbulekaya on SABC1 every Wednesday at 9 p.m.
Did you know that 80% of South Africa's barley is sold to the beer industry? This locally sourced barley, along with other natural ingredients, plays a vital role in beer production, contributing 2.2 billion rand to the country's agricultural GDP. Join South African breweries on the 3rd of October in Caledon as we dive into the state of the beer economy. SAB, brewing a future full of cheers. South Africa, be sharp. Not for sale to persons under 18.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let 100 schools of thought contend. Let's hear from you. Let's start with Phumzile, who is in Humansdorp. Good morning to you, Phumzile. You want to talk to me about the DA?
Yes, good morning to Thulas and good morning to the listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Thulas, I'm a councillor here in Kocha Municipality, representing the ANC. Yesterday, and not for the first time, there was a safety and security summit. And astonishingly and very annoying, in fact, is to observe the unabated attitude applied by the DA in having disregard for our own provincial legislative leaders, so to speak. The people addressing that summit yesterday were MMCs from the Western Cape, most particularly from George and Mossel Bay, and these are DA people. Now, this is a total disregard and disrespect to our NEC of safety and security, not featuring anywhere, let alone the provincial government, not featuring anywhere. And it's not the first time when Thulas, that these people are doing this. They are not recognizing the ANC-led provincial government. Lastly, I listened to the spokesperson of the same municipality telling lies and propaganda that there is security cameras all over. Those security cameras are at the suburbs, at the white areas. Where there is crime, for instance, in Arcadia, Ward 4 and 5, where there is crime in Kwanomzama, Ward 6, you don't find these cameras. These cameras are meant for the rich and the affluent.
I've heard you. Thank you so much there. That's Phumzile in Humansdorp talking about the interactions between the various levels of government and putting on the layer of complexity that is then added when it's one political party that holds at a local level versus the other political party at a provincial level. Let me speak to Papillon in Joburg. Papillon, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about horse betting. What do you want to raise about that issue?
Good morning, my friends. Pleasure speaking to you. My friend, I have been, many times I've been in Lenasia, Maponya Mall, Barra and Turf Avenue, where the punters, especially the elderly as well, they are complaining about the meager, the few horses which are per race here in South Africa, and they actually stipulate that at the Vaal, Fairview, and in Turf, there are minimal horses per race over there, and they actually say, at least in Durbanville, in Scottsville, and whatever, there's more than there's every 12 over there in comparison, and many of the people, they are playing now where in England, from South Africa, of course, in England, Crunchy, Happy Valley, and those in Scottsville, and so they are refraining from playing Vaal Fairview. I wonder, friend, if you could contact the CEO or the manager of the tab, and just to ask you, the bull which they give of such, can you believe it? So I think it was about 4 days ago, the PA, 7 races, PA paid a meager 9 rand. It paid 9 rand. Now you tell me, what is I, me, bro?
Sure, yeah. Papillon, is it your sense that the horse racing itself, the number of events is on the decline, or is it the bets not being taken in the traditional way and perhaps people switching to online betting?
Exactly. Besides all that, going online, even there to online, they are doing it now, but many of them are refraining from such, as I said, being turf, Vaal and whatever. They are going overseas because it is far more prosperous over there, because today's races is most in Vaal. Can you believe it? 7 horses. Race 1, race 3, race 4, whatever, and plus there are still to be scratchings over there, my brother. But there is something, that is so much that's cropping people's head that they cannot even take in.
All right, thank you for that. That's Papillon there, raising a fascinating discussion about horse racing and the bets that are being placed there. You can tell the passion in his voice, and of course, a lot of nostalgia for many people who will remember a time, a golden era for horse racing when, it used to feature in the newspapers. The radio reports would have reports about how the races have gone. Nowadays, all I see is when there's the Durban July, but maybe that's just me. Let's speak to Janusz. Janusz, you want to talk to me about South Africa sending artisans to China. What's happening? A few years ago, it seemed the trend was artisans coming to South Africa. Are you saying that now we are sending artisans to China?
Yes, that's right. I good morning to you. I learned it was some 24 News or something like this. They had an article about it, mentioned about it, and I agree with this. And I think, of course, the language barrier can be a problem. But on the building side, because they sent it to the college, I think more to the practical education. On the building side, you don't need much of the talking. Even by hand you can explain what has to be done, how to be done. And I agree with this that they should send more people. And but my point is that actually we can when even they will return to South Africa, with 100 or 1,000 or whatever, what environment they're going to have here? They're going to go be employed for the municipality as a municipality workers. And we know the municipality workers, municipality system is overcharged, or overpaid, and underworking. They don't perform. So whatever they learn going to be missed. But I've got the idea. If you allow me to talk to about 5-10 minutes about it.
All right.
We can have
We'll arrange that conversation with you, Janusz, to just hear more of your thoughts around how we can improve the situation with artisans. I find nothing that I can disagree with there. Any initiatives that helps us to grow our artisans and expose them to more work and experience would be welcomed by me. Let's speak to Moses out in Bramley. Moses, you want to talk about the blitz that was undertaken in the restaurant sector. Good morning.
Yeah, morning to that. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, man. I don't think these people are just doing it for the sake of eradicating all this.
Okay, I'm battling with your line, Moses. I don't know if you have me on hands free or something like that. Could I ask you to just hold the phone? Yeah.
All right. Do you hear
That's
me now?
better now. Yes.
Yeah, man. I think these people, the Labor Department, they are just doing this thing just for the sake of us seeing they are doing something. Because corruption is rife in this country. Even if they don't inform the restaurant, they just go there. Some of our people who are working on those departments, because they like money, they are money eaters, they will inform these people that on such and such a date will be there, so that they must get cash from these people. In this country, we are on our own. We don't have anybody representing us. It's really a situation whereby you cannot explain what is going on. And we are suffocated. There's a lot of people who are working here who are foreigners. I usually say to people, if we definitely give space for our people to work, this unemployment that we talk of day in and day out will be totally reduced. If this
All right, I've got to thank you for that, Moses. I'm completely out of time. And that brings me to 8 a.m., time for a news update with Ann Musam. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
DA and FF Plus to reconsider their positions in the GNU, and police probe a double murder at an informal settlement in Primrose. Good morning. Lobby group AfriForum has called on the DA and the Freedom Front Plus to reconsider their positions in the Government of National Unity if the Bella Act is not amended. In a video posted on social media platform X, AfriForum says the move is in response to a group of anti-Afrikaans activists, including the ANC-run Gauteng government, who aim to sabotage the current discussions on the act. President Cyril Ramaphosa signed the Bella Bill into law last month. AfriForum's executive head, Kali Kriel.
The hope that the GNU has ushered in a new era of cooperation will of course be dashed if it turns out to be that the ANC has simply co-opted the DA and FF Plus to blindly follow and implement ANC policies. Afrikaans speakers do not have, like other cultural groups, a large traditional area in which their culture is promoted. Afrikaans schools thus play a central role in the survival of Afrikaans cultural communities. For us, this is not just a fight against the act. It is a fight for cultural survival.
Meanwhile, Bold One South Africa leader Simelane says although the GNU has some positive elements, there are some challenges it needs to address. He gave it a 50% score as the coalition between the ANC, DA and other parties reached 100 days in office. Simelane cited bickering among political parties as one of the challenges. He says some politicians are too comfortable in their positions to remember the promises they made to their supporters.
What we cannot deny is the fact that the chronic issues that are underlying this country have been left unattended to. Let's take an example of crime, and I send my condolences to all the families of lost loved ones in Lusikisiki. There doesn't seem to be a cogent plan that comes from the Ministry of Police. So we can't, in the configuration of a new government, keep hoping to do more of the same and hope for different outcomes. The greatest threat to the existence of the GNU is for it to kind of have elected cabinet ministers and a president, but actually not been able to effect the material changes for South Africans.
Police are investigating a double murder case in the Makahuse informal settlement in Primrose, eastern Johannesburg. 2 people were gunned down and the vehicle set alight. The victims are believed to have been shot multiple times before the vehicle was torched. Gauteng Police spokesperson Dimakatso Nebahulwi.
The victims are not yet identified and the circumstances surrounding the incident are unknown at this stage, pending police investigations. Anyone with information that can assist with the investigation is requested to contact the Crime Stop line at 08600 10111.
Prince Harry has visited many community projects in Lesotho. Prince Seeiso and some directors of multinational companies who wants to invest in community development projects in Southern Africa accompanied him. Prince Harry and Seeiso are longtime friends who co-founded an HIV/AIDS charity in 2006. Our international editor, Sophie Mukwena, has more.
Harry was accompanied by Prince Seeiso, whom they have a joint foundation that they launched with the aim of honoring their mothers, Queen Mamohato and Princess Diana. Many children who are orphans due to HIV and AIDS impact in Lesotho and in Botswana are benefiting from the project started by Sintebali. Prince Harry will wrap up his visit in South Africa before returning to the United States of America. Sophie Mukwena, SABC News.
And finally, scientists have identified the position, shape and connections of every cell in the brain of a fruit fly. It's the first such detailed analysis of an adult animal brain ever produced. One of the co-leaders of the project, Dr. Gregory Jeffrey, says the work will lead to an avalanche of new insights into human brain functioning.
This lets us do a great deal because flies actually have a remarkable amount of sophisticated behavior. They can learn, obviously they can fly, they can land on the ceiling upside down, they can sing to their conspecifics, they can recognize those songs, they can navigate. And now we can study all of those actually quite complex behavioral processes and see what is the mechanism, how are the neurons talking to each other.
Recapping the top story, lobby group AfriForum has called on the DA and the Freedom Front Plus to reconsider their positions in the Government of National Unity if the Bella Act is not amended. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. Outsurance Essential is unlike any other car insurance product. It's specifically designed and priced for older cars with the essentials you need. Get up to 1 million rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the car could be covered for up to 1 million rand. And claims are paid out in cash so you can go to your own panel beater. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Heading into Sandton, it's our top story this morning with the closures in place ahead of the F1 display this Sunday. A lot of closures along Catherine, parts of Ravonia, Western, 5th and Pybus. Major delays getting into central Sandton. Some of the closures intensifying as we get through today and into tomorrow morning as well. So if you think today's bad, just wait till tomorrow. The real pinch points are sort of Grayston Drive from Wynberg through to sort of Catherine Street. Grayston Drive both ways, very heavy. You've also got motorists avoiding that and just clogging the Mike one down to Corlett Drive. So there's a lot of delays there around the Bramley and Melrose area, and then just to the north of it, Marlborough Drive, seeing some really heavy traffic around the Mike 1 Highway Bridge, and South Road as you come down through Morningside to Ravonia. So very heavy around the sort of central Santon area, dealing with the road closures, but some real pressure getting in there on some of the sort of alternative routes that are taking you away from the real pressure points. Give yourself plenty of time to get through Santon today and tomorrow as well. Lights are down, Willie Mandela at Bryanston. That's just one of many lights down around the sort of greater Four Ways Bryanston area. So coming out of Four Ways, it stays really heavily backed up. Durban, the N3 outbound, a breakdown at Pavilion in the roadworks. That's already heavy from Spaghetti Junction territory. And Cape Town, if you're driving between Paarl and Franschhoek, just keep in mind there's a load of roadworks, both sides of Val de Vie, roadworks around the Klapmuts Road through to Simondium. Just give yourself plenty of time. There's about 4 big roads out that way that link you between Paarl and Franschhoek, and they're all being worked on at the same time. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines, and it's rugby. The Bok wing Edwin van der Merwe is set for a possible comeback as the Lions are gearing up for Edinburgh in their URC campaign. And in cricket, the Proteas women's seam bowler Ayabonga Kaka, her 5-wicket heroics have set the tone for the Proteas World Cup campaign. Details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning, South Africa. It's the third hour of the morning brief on this Thursday, and quite a number of conversations that are already on the go over the last 2 hours. Among them, of course, the continued focus on policing, the strategy that we hope and pray that the government has. The government insists that they are onto it. They are aware of the concerns of South Africans about the escalation of crime in the country. We've focused a bit on rural areas and the strategies there that are required to respond to the unique circumstances of rural areas. You can weigh in on that conversation if you want. And then the other conversation we had earlier on was sort of feedback from the Department of Employment and Labour about the inspection blitz that they had in the restaurants industry, and it came back certainly in one aspect showing results that I bet you not many of you would have expected, that actually while there's a high number of foreign nationals employed in the sector, the number of people that they found that were undocumented was actually quite low. The department, of course, the Inspector General telling us that, well, there could be something else at play there, in that people could potentially have been tipped off that there's going to be these inspections. Therefore, if your papers are not in order, do stay at home. I don't know the extent to which that is the reality on the ground. You can weigh in on that and other news as well that you want, that are exercising your mind this morning. I'll take your calls on the number 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes to 061 410 4107. The third hour of the morning brief starts now.
Ethical is what defines our business. I think Outsurance does have integrity. They are not just there for the money, they're there to create a relationship. It's like a partner in business. It's the best thing we've ever done to switch over to Outsurance. It's a no-brainer.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Masanda Wane ladies want to rubber stamp their authority with maximum points to stay on the summit. But Copper Belt ladies want to fight with all they have to move away from the bottom half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. Mamelodi Sundowns Ladies FC versus Copperbelt Ladies FC on Saturday, 5 October at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
It's time to crown Miss World South Africa 2024. Tune in to S3 this Saturday, the 5th of October at 8 p.m. as Miss World South Africa 2024 takes center stage on S3. This year's pageant will be taking place live at the Sun City Super Bowl with tickets available at Quicket. Channel your inner star with the 2024 Miss World South Africa finale this Saturday, the 5th of October at 8:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
I kid you not. This is my favorite moment of the last few days because, I get to be generous with money. Give money. Why not? Just generally give money. Congratulations to the lucky winners who have walked away with their share of 50,000 Rand in the last few days. But you still have a chance to win your share. All you have to do is enter on safm.co.za and you could get a call to play on SAFM. Boost your winnings by 2,000 Rand when you get an obligation-free One Life cover quote. One Life is a licensed life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. One Life, changing lives. All right, are you ready to play Winning at Life with One Life? Today we have Ponzo Ngake, who is playing with us. And I'm told we have Roslyn Ntoleng, actually, not Ponzo. Roslyn Ntoleng, good morning to you. Are you ready to play Winning at Life with One Life?
SAFM World Competition. Hi, Thulasizwe. How are you?
I'm very well. Good morning. One Life Insurance and SAFM are giving away cash. Simply pick a box. You know how it works, and you could walk away with your share of 50,000 Rand. So, Roslyn, I have these boxes: 1, L, I, F, and E. So, which box is it going to be for you this morning?
The letter L.
L is it?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am.
You don't want to throw bones and consult a spiritual leader or call a friend?
I think I'll stick to my choice.
All right. Congratulations to you then, Roslyn. You have won a whopping 16,000 Rand. That's what we do. That's what we do. So we've doubled what would be the maximum prize that we give daily to make it 16,000 Rand because we really, really want to give away this money. But let's take it a step further. The news could get even better for you, Roslyn. Tell me, did you get opt-in for a One Life insurance quote?
Yes, I did.
That's even better then. That's it. You get an extra 2,000 Rand for just opting in for an obligation-free life cover quote from One Life Insurance. So in total, you have won 18,000 Rand in cash, all thanks to One Life Insurance, who are changing lives today.
Thank you very much. This is actually even the first time I've been on air.
So this is wonderful. I'm sure you'll call a lot more now.
I will, definitely.
Congratulations on your winnings, Roslyn. If you want a chance to play Winning at Life with One Life, then go to our website and enter. Win your share of 50,000 Rand in cash. And well done there to Roslyn. It's that easy. For your chance to win at Life with One Life Insurance, enter now.
4 dynamic design duos reimagine and reinvent 4 apartments in a century-old building nestled in the vibrant suburb of Sea Point, Cape Town. Armed with creativity, determination, and a limited budget, the duos fight against the clock to transform this grand old dame into a contemporary masterpiece, all under the critical eyes of an expert judging panel. The winning duo will claim a grand prize of 300,000 Rand, with an additional 100,000 Rand going to the fan favorite team, as voted by viewers. Channel your inner wow with My Design Rules, Sundays at 7 p.m, only on S3. Open up.
S3.
Becoming Elizabeth is the fascinating story of the early life of England's most iconic queen. With no clear heir, the death of King Henry VIII sets into motion a dangerous scramble for power. Elizabeth's fascinating and factual journey to secure the crown is filled with scheming, betrayal, and illicit relationships that threaten to bring forth her demise. At a time in which every man or woman of the court is on the wheel of fortune, which may take them to a position of great power one moment, or the executioner's block the next. Channel your inner royalty with Becoming Elizabeth, Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
The Science of Life on SAFM.
All right, this is a distressing conversation, but a necessary one, an important one at that. According to the World Health Organization, the continent of Africa currently has the highest suicide rates worldwide. This is driven by a combination, we are told, of factors including poverty, unemployment, and untreated mental health issues. South Africa ranks third on the continent, while Lesotho has the most suicide on the continent. For more on this, then, I'm joined on the line by Professor Sats Cooper, the Pan-African Psychology Union President. Good morning to you, Prof. And it's a sobering conversation to have. But what do we glean from the reports such as the one issued by the World Health Organization? What is its importance in helping us understand the incidence of death by suicide around the world?
Well, look, this statistic is actually not new. This is a statistic that predates COVID and has been confirmed during these last few years. It shows that Southern Africa as a whole leads the world in suicide, and it's highly attributable to the economic and social insecurities that Southern Africa confronts in terms of lack of ability to keep citizens socially involved and in terms of their sense of community and belonging, the very high rates of unemployment. We collectively have the highest rate of unemployment in the world. South Africa is one of the leading countries in that regard. We have economies that are linked. There is a huge mining involvement from colonial times to now. The lack of responsive leadership in terms of dealing with this, simply our health systems have deteriorated to such an extent that we don't even pick up mental health anymore, including in South Africa.
Yeah.
Private institutions have rocketed up all over the place, and they actually don't serve the majority of the population.
Given what you just said, do you get a sense that the authorities in the various countries, and perhaps we can talk at most about our own country, look at these statistics and say this is concerning, it requires a policy intervention, and perhaps beyond just broader mental health, but to actually have policies that are aimed at suicide prevention specifically?
We don't have evidence of that, sadly. If you look at our policies that written years ago, they talk about some of these things, but they've not been implemented at all. We are appalling in our lack of follow through. The policies may smack of some sense, but in the operationalization, they simply don't exist. And what is worse is that young people tend to suicide or attempt to suicide more than anybody else. And the sense of hopelessness that confronts young people gives rise to this. You see, Thulasizwe, if you look at the northern part of the continent and the Middle East. People flee and do other things. They do desperate things like throwing their children into a dinghy across the Mediterranean and so on. Here, we tend to be, which sea are we going to go into? And where are we going to go to on those boats? We tend to be landlocked, and South Africa becomes the repository of all these. Not that South Africa is not connected to the genesis of these problems, because South Africa is the largest and most dominant economy in the region and on the continent. And therefore, when we sneeze, the rest of Southern Africa does. So there's an intermingling, if you like, of all these factors. So out of the 10 countries that have the highest suicide rates recorded, all of Southern Africa are implicated, and Namibia is 10th. So all the 6 highest countries for suicide are the rest of the Southern African countries.
Sure.
And what's worse is, in the world, Lesotho is number 1, and Eswatini is number 3. And again, an old statistic. So it's saying that something is happening here. The meetings should they happen between our health ministers, simply don't pierce the veil of the serious issues confronting the populations of Southern Africa.
Sure.
And at any other level, even professionally, we're not looking at it. And it's significant that we're having actually the 30th anniversary Congress of the South African Psychology Society next week, combined with the 10th anniversary Congress of the Pan-African Psychology Union. And the Assembly of the Pan-African Psychology Union is going to be looking at this for action.
Right. Prof, just lastly then, what would be the immediate interventions that are needed? And I'm picking up from what you are saying, that this should be a SADC-wide conversation happening with firm commitments among the leaders of SADC, but I do imagine that it would need to involve professionals such as yourselves, civil society and the likes. But what are the immediate interventions that are needed to deal with mental health challenges, but also to specifically target this manifestation that comes through suicide?
Well, one, I think that caregivers, and in particular teachers and primary healthcare workers, if such exist in the country at all anymore, and other care workers need to be taught what the symptoms of basically depression are, so that they can diagnose that immediately. Unfortunately, the professional training is not there. We don't train all these health practitioners to recognize these symptoms, and prevention is better than cure. In any society, we need to be able to be prepared to prevent rather than worry about the tertiary intervention once the person suicides. And by the way, our men tend to commit suicide more, because when a woman says certain things, we tend to take note of it, but a man doesn't say, or boy children don't say, this is troubling me, and the result is that they can commit and go through with suicide quicker. So we need to re-examine this and how we deal with it at all levels in our society.
Always worth restating all of those fundamentals. Thank you for your insights this morning. That's Professor Sads Cooper, who is the Pan-African Psychology Union President, weighing in our science feature this morning. All right, let's take some of your views on some of the stories that we've been discussing this morning. Let's hear some of your voice notes now.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, in fact, let me first take a call from Fred in Limpopo. Fred, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about the issue of illegal foreigners?
Cool. Good morning, and good morning to the listeners. How are you, sir?
Very well, how are you?
Yeah, very blessed, man. You know, this thing of illegal immigrants, it's something that is so painful, because we have been discussing it, and the government that we have, which is the government of the day, it's seeming like they're not doing anything. one will basically say they are not doing anything because we haven't had anything happening. The essence of it remains to say we will be fighting people in the workspace than to fight people in the domicility space. People are domiciling in South Africa illegitimately, and the government is aware of it. So it's as much as they are poking the inhabitants of this country to fight one another in a way to say the illegal people should not reside. While if really it happens that the employers are able to give them jobs, and which is mostly exploitation upon them. It's something that really one will simply have a big finger to point upon the government of the day. I can just assure you, Thulas, where we're going as the country. I don't think we're going to reach something at the end of the day.
All right, I've got to thank you for that. That is Fred out in Limpopo. That's Fred in Limpopo talking about the issue of undocumented migrants. I prefer that word, undocumented migrants, because I'm of the view that a person can never be illegal and have that adjective attached to them. Let me speak to Matumelo, who is in Mahikeng. Matumelo, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about suicide?
Yes, good morning. Thank you for the science feature. I always try to listen to that.
Thank you.
Prof. Cooper has highlighted so important issues that suicide is having very deep roots. And I just want to highlight the fact that beyond and additional to the immediate interventions, the social determinants of health need to be addressed, and that is a far wider approach to health, that poverty alleviation and unemployment, the social support, that these determinants actually define how people feel, how people can act and survive. And I think the suicide is just the tip of the iceberg of our social problems.
Are those social determinants of health being discussed in the right spaces? Are those right conversations happening in your experience, Matumelo?
I ask myself, because it seems that intersectoral meetings or communications maybe are ineffective. I mean, it is a problem which is known, the politicians know, and we fail to really bring the lasting change. It's in many health-related issues, even the malnutrition and all this. It leads to those tip of iceberg situations, which is crisis.
Well, thank you for that, Matumelo. I guess the best you and I can do is just to keep that conversation on the radar, and hopefully one day we'll start seeing, greater cohesion in terms of responding to some of the issues that you raise. And that brings us to 8:30. Let's check in with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, former Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa accused former executive of IT service management company Johan McKay are expected to be back in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court in Eastern Johannesburg today. Lobby group AfriForum has called on the DA and the Freedom Front Plus to reconsider their positions in the Government of National Unity if the Bella Act is not amended. And Prince Harry has visited many community projects in Lesotho. Prince Seiso and some directors of multinational companies wants to invest in community development projects in Southern Africa accompanied him. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still dreadfully heavy getting into Sandton this morning. A lot of road closures that we've been detailing. Really, the whole area is really very messy. There's big traffic that starts on the Mike 1 about Buccleuch interchange, and then you come down, struggle to get off into some really crazy traffic at the Marlborough off-ram, even worse at the Greyston off-ram, and others are just going down and queuing up to get off at Corlett Drive, trying to sort of sneak through the Melrose area and parts of Illovo to get into Sandton, but that's all heavily congested. congested as well. So if you're sort of between Morningside and let's say Wanderers Stadium side, any sort of route that links you through that central Sandton area or into central Sandton is particularly bad. Greyston Drive, for example, from the Wynberg side up over the highway all the way round to Linden Street. Catherine coming down from the Morningside area. South Road from Marlborough Drive across Morningside down towards Rivonia, really heavy there. And as we've been warning about as well, the run up Rivonia Road through Ilovo into Sandton's heavy. It's all on a lockdown ahead of the big F1 show event this weekend. It's pretty bad today. There'll be more closures going in today, tonight and tomorrow morning. So Friday will particularly be even worse. The N1 both ways to William Mandela stays fairly heavy south from Rivonia, north from the Randburg side. Durban side easing up. Just a little bit of traffic still working its way through Spaghetti Junction up towards Westwood Mall. But even that through the roadworks is easing pretty quickly as well. Cape Town, the N1 inbound, pretty busy. Was yesterday, is again today. Plattekloof Hill through the city centre is the worst of it there. And if you're up the M5, it's not a bad run until you get to Klipfontein Road. Then it slows through towards the M2 highway off-ramp. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Rugby under the spotlight this time around, Zai. The Lions taking on Edinburgh, and it seems that the Springbok wing, Edwin van der Merwe, is particularly looking forward to this one.
Oh, Thulas, it looks like the Lions are crossing their paws and praying to the rugby gods that Edwin van der Merwe will be back in action this weekend. I mean, he's got some serious pace, and when he's on the field, you know Edinburgh's defence is in trouble. So looking forward to the action this weekend, especially on Saturday when the Lions will be facing Edinburgh. It's a must-win clash at Ellis Park. Now, Edwin van der Merwe, who scored on his Bok debut against Wales in June, has been sidelined, and of course the team is looking forward to have him selected. The Lions are looking to build on that momentum after they had a strong win against Ulster last week. Let's go to the Proteas women and their seam bowler, Ayabonga Kaka, confident the team will be ready for their ICC Women's T20 World Cup opener against the West Indies. That's tomorrow at 2 p.m. Kaka believes their recent T20 series win against Pakistan has been a solid foundation that has been set. Her 5-wicket haul against India in the final warm-up game highlighted her form. Elsewhere, more cricket. Ryan Rickleton's brilliant knock of 91 helping guide the Proteas men to a comfortable 139-run victory over Ireland in the first ODI of their 3-match series. South Africa posted 271 for 9 with Ireland bowled out for 132 in just 32 overs. Soccer now. Orlando Pirates and Namibian international utility player Dion Hotto has credited head coach Jose Rivero for transforming his football in the past 3 years, and he was speaking ahead of the MTN8 final, and that's against Stellenbosch FC at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban this coming weekend. Hotto says it's all about patience.
For me, it's all about the three major powerful warrior keys. It's all about God, and it's all about time and patience. And if you have time, you haven't lost. You just need to be patient and wait for your time to strike. And God's time is always the best. That's what keeps moving me. Yeah, definitely I have, because the club is full of talented players, and that's why I'm here with them.
Stellenbosch FC defender Fawaz Basadin says the form that got him to the MTN8 final is evidence they can go all the way. The side, coached by Steve Barker, beat TS Galaxy in the quarterfinals and followed that up with back-to-back wins over Mamelodi Sundowns in the semi-finals, setting up their fixture against the title holders Orlando Pirates in Durban.
The two games against Mamelodi Sundowns and TS Galaxy, obviously not easy teams to play against. So getting a result against Galaxy in the quarterfinal was important because we knew that we want to challenge for this cup. And after we got the result, no matter what team we got in the semi-final, we knew our goal is to reach the final. And then we put in two good performances against Sundowns, home and away. And obviously it boosts the confidence of the guys. Looking forward to the final, and we're hoping to go all the way.
And you can catch the action live on SABC Sport. And finally, tennis. Carlos Alcaraz came back from a set down to beat the world number one, Yannick Sinner, 6-7, 6-4, 7-6 for his first China Open title. That's a wrap of your sport here on the Morning Brief. We'll bring you more sport on SAFM around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
For that, let's bring in Dowling Lechela. And Dowling, I see you are focusing on SOEs in this segment. Let's start with Transnet. Moves for the unbundling is the word at Transnet have gathered momentum.
That's right, Sulas. Now, Transnet is pushing forward with its turnaround efforts, marking a significant shift in South Africa's transportation landscape. As of the 1st of October, Transnet Freight Rail has officially split into two separate entities, Transnet Infrastructure Manager and Transnet Freight Rail. This move opens up the national rail network to private companies, but it's facing resistance from the United National Transport Union, the majority union there. Now, Untu claims Transnet's decision was unexpected and premature, prioritizing political survival over employee well-being. Key concerns include funding and job security, as upgrading outdated infrastructure will require billions of rands. Now, employees transferring to Transnet Infrastructure Manager face uncertainty, and Untu worries Transnet Freight Rail may struggle to compete with private operators, potentially leading to financial distress and job losses. Now, Transnet, in the meantime, assures that these economic reforms are guided by national policies, including the National Rail Policy and Freight Logistics Roadmap. The SOE has been consulting with organized labor and engaging employees through various forums with plans to continue this dialogue. Despite Transnet's optimism, Untu remains skeptical about private sector participation in rail network, questioning its feasibility and benefits. The union vows to challenge Transnet's recent move.
Yeah, there was a time when it was promising that the post office could be turned around, that seems like a long time ago now. And government is exploring the privatization of the post office.
Yes. Now, the South African Post Office really facing a dire financial crisis, with its day zero looming when it will finally run out of money. And in a bid to address this, Communications Minister Thulasizwe has requested Treasury's assistance in forming a task team to find private financial and operational partners for the state-owned entity. The primary objective is to modernize SAPO's operations and increase its competitiveness. Now, Malatsi said that there's a global trend of postal services transitioning away from monopolies, and SAPO needs to regain the public's trust, including public entities, without relying on compulsory use of its services. Now, to get out of this hole, the post office needs a 3.8 billion rand bailout to pay off creditors, update its outdated IT systems, and improve its infrastructure, logistics, and mail processing. But Treasury is hesitant to disburse funds without a solid business plan, practicing its tough love approach. The entity, however, needs an immediate injection of 1 billion rand to continue beyond October. SAPO's business rescue practitioners have warned that unless the necessary funds are secured, the SOE will be forced into liquidation, resulting in the loss of all remaining jobs and the sale of its 1,100 branches. So it seems like privatization may be its last hope.
Sure. All right. Lastly, Dowling, trading resumes in about 20 minutes at the JSE. What kind of a day can we look forward to, as well as your recap of Asia and US futures?
There's still some nervousness, some profit-taking in equity markets to less. And so the JSE could be in for a mixed start this morning. Local traders will be digesting earnings from Jubilee Metals and an update from Baldwin Properties. Meanwhile, in the currency markets, the rand reversing some of the losses we saw about an hour ago, trading at 17 rand 37 to the dollar from about 17.41. Moving over to Wall Street, futures slipping into the red after a pretty flat session yesterday. Those upbeat private sector employment numbers not really boosting equities, but solidifying claims of a soft landing and paving the way for the non-farm payrolls out on Friday. Meanwhile, in Asia, trade quite choppy as investors awaited developments in the Middle East. Those markets are on track to close mixed.
All right, Ntauleng, thanks for today. That's Ntauleng Lechela there. She's been watching all things to do with the economy, business, as well as market updates from here and around the world throughout the morning here on The Morning Brief.
Masanda Wane ladies want to rubber stamp their authority with maximum points to stay on the summit. But Copper Belt ladies want to fight with all they have to move away from the bottom half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. Mamelodi Sundowns Ladies FC versus Copperbelt Ladies FC on Saturday, 5 October at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
It's time to crown Miss World South Africa 2024. Tune in to S3 this Saturday, the 5th of October at 8 p.m. as Miss World South Africa 2024 takes center stage on S3. This year's pageant will be taking place live at the Sun City Super Bowl with tickets available at Quicket. Channel your inner star with the 2024 Miss World South Africa finale this Saturday, the 5th of October at 8:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
17 minutes to 9. Let's turn our attention to this story now. Correctional Services Minister Pieter Groenewald has quote-unquote reassigned officials who failed to report convicted criminal Thabo Bester's prison escape. A public protector report found that it had taken Correctional Services staff 6 months to report Bester's escape to the police. Groenewald says the officials have been reassigned to alternative positions and issued final written warnings for their failure to promptly report the escape. The Minister of Correctional Services, Pieter Groenewald, joins me now for that conversation. Good morning to you, Minister. Why, quote-unquote, reassign these officials instead of firing them?
Well, firstly, we must have it quite clear that was before my tenure. I only became the minister on the 3rd of July this year.
The escape, yes.
So this all happened before my time. And if you've read the report of the public protector, it said that no further steps is necessary to be taken against these officials. And as you've mentioned, both of them were transferred to other facilities, and the one to other department. And I can also say that in the case of Mahonono, he will retire by the end of this year. Of course, I think personally that a final written warning is not enough in terms of consequence management. If I was the minister at that stage, I would have asked that the services would be terminated. We cannot allow people to be gross negligent. And we must also very surely emphasize to the public that it was still the responsibility of G4S to prevent this escape. They must take full responsibility for the escape. Where the officials comes in is only when it is a matter of reporting. For instance, the incident occurred on the 3rd of May in 2022, and it was only reported to the National Commissioner by November that year.
Yeah.
So that was a misconduct of actually both of them, and not ensured that it is also reported to the police services. So the escape in itself, the MCC of the Magoong Correctional Center, operated by G4S, must take full responsibility for the escape.
How many officials are we talking about that have been, quote-unquote, reassigned?
Well, it's actually only two. Because you must remember, this is a private, public-private partnership.
Yeah.
So it is only the two officials. They were actually, in simple terms, representing correctional services there. And that's why also the public protector is quite right when she said that within 90 days, the National Commissioner must compile DCS, Department of Correctional Services, escape prevention strategy plus guidelines for the MCC and indicating how there must be monitoring and mechanisms and systems and steps directly how DCS and contractors manage escapes. And they are already busy with them. They will submit this strategy within 90 days.
So given... please complete that thought, Minister.
No, I think the other important thing of the findings of the public protector is that she also ordered the National Commissioner to, within 120 days, that there must be a proper documented guideline how anonymous anti-corruption reports from our hotline will be dealt for. Because it was said that there was a whistleblower that made contact, for instance, with the Deputy Minister, and there must be proper guidelines, especially when it comes to anti-corruption and our hotline. It's no use that we as a department have a hotline, but we do not react on that. And they're also busy with that. And I will see these documents and to ensure that steps are taken if people do not comply to that.
So just to capture your position then, Minister, you share the sense that reassigning these officials amounts to a slap on the wrist. So is it your sense then that your hands are tied because the public protector's remedial actions are binding? But what of the argument that says actually misconduct of this nature you could be dealt with in terms of the labor laws of this country, and dismissal is one of those consequences that are warranted for misconduct?
It's not as simple as that. You're referring to the labor law. I already investigated and asked questions if we can take further steps. Now, in terms of labor law, you must understand the first thing they will come forward, and as you've mentioned, the findings of the public protector is binding. They will use the finding of the public protector and said that determines that no further steps be taken. So that's a technical issue. I already inquired about that. Sure. I'm still looking at it. And surely if there is a possibility that I can still act on this matter, then surely I will.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That is the Minister of Correctional Services, Pieter Groenewald, talking to me there about the consequences that have been ordered as remedial actions by the public protector following that escape of 2022 by Thabo Bester.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, we're seeing a lot of the phrase unbearable traffic when it comes to Sandton. Obviously, ahead of this weekend's, this Sunday's F1 show run from Red Bull, lockdowns of multiple routes in the central Sandton area, including main routes like Catherine, the 5th Western and Rivonia. And, of course, these closures intensifying today, tonight, tomorrow as we build up to the main event on Sunday. It's absolutely gridlock getting into Sandton, basically from, if you say, the Wanderers through to about South Road up through Morningside. Any route in that area is heavily congested. The worst would be South Road coming off Marlborough Drive across to Rivonia in from Ilovo, up from sort of Dunkeld area through the schools and into Sandton. That's really heavy. And the Mike 1, of course, battling to get off into some very heavy traffic on Grayston Drive, and then Catherine Drive's all backed up. The Mike 1 north from Athol Oaklands and south from Buccleuch, it's all very, very heavily back, to make sure you give yourself plenty of time to get in and out and through Sandton. Looks like there might be some roadworks going on the N3 South, Buccleuch down towards Mulin. Marlborough Drive, very heavy. And the N1 South is queuing down towards the Winnie Mandela off-ramp. That's still quite heavy for this time of morning. If you're on your way to Durban, having left Pietermaritzburg, one or two breakdowns between Camperdown and Cato Ridge. So that is all of a sudden quite slow. The N2 moving up through Westwood Mall towards Mgeta Road has eased up. Don't forget the closure this weekend going in on Spaghetti Junction, N3 outbound onto the N2 North at Spaghetti. That'll be closed from 2 p.m. on Saturday right through until 2 a.m. on Monday. And that closure this weekend will repeat every single weekend through the month of October. It's going to be more chaotic out that way for a little while yet. Cape Town, not too bad. The N1, busy yesterday, busy again this morning, inbound from sort of Goodwood, N1 City territory, all the way to the elevated freeway. And the N2 still got a bit of traffic, just jamming up between Langa and Hospital Bends. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Open your mind to Life on Death Row, Thursdays at 9 p.m. and Resistance in a Hostile Environment, a 3-part documentary showcasing turning points which would go on to define race relations in the UK for a generation. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Wind down your weeknights with The Outlaws, Fridays at 9 p.m. and explore the world's most dangerous roads at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
For 18 years, Kumbulekaya has been fostering healing through forgiveness and reconciliation.
Are you asking me that? Yes. I grew up without a mom.
So what happened to your family?
What family? You are my family. What happened to you?
Witness as families forgive one another and reunite after a long time. Catch the new season of Kumbulekaya on SABC1 every Wednesday at 9 p.m.
Did you know that 80% of South Africa's barley is sold to the beer industry? This locally sourced barley, along with other natural ingredients, plays a vital role in beer production, contributing 2.2 billion rand to the country's agricultural GDP. Join South African breweries on the 3rd of October in Caledon as we dive into the state of the beer economy. SAB, brewing a future full of cheers. South Africa, be sharp, not for sale to persons under 18.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let's lead the conversation together. Let 100 schools of thought contend. Let's start by hearing one or two of your voice notes now.
Good morning, Siso. With this municipalities and ESCOM, since electricity belongs to ESCOM, I think all the money should first come to ESCOM. Then ESCOM can distribute it to the municipalities. Because ESCOM cannot steal their own money. Unlike the municipalities where people do what they want. Some of the things are so simple that we take time to change them as South Africans. More especially the politicians. Some of the things are so simple and clear. Give ESCOM the money first, then he'll give it to the municipalities. What the municipalities should get, not the other way around. Thank you. Anonymous from Soweto.
Yeah, I hear you, Anonymous, and you're not the first person to raise that, to say perhaps customers should be paying directly to ESCOM so that we don't sit with this problem where we are wondering whether customers paid the municipality and whether then that money was then passed on to ESCOM. Of course, the difficulty is that municipalities pay from a pool of revenue that they collect for all the services that they provide. But I hear you and your sense of being tired, paralysis by analysis, where you think that some of the solutions are actually straightforward.
Yes, good morning, SAFM listeners. Good morning to us. The lady that you spoke to, I think from the Labour Department, that lady, she just speculating concerning the foreigners. Just speculating. Yes, we know few restaurants do have the back doors, but most of them only have one door, the entrance. So how can the restaurant say you don't come to work for 4 days because they don't know exactly when the inspector's gonna go and do the control in the restaurant? To say like you come from the front door and they run from the back door. That just speculating, because when you go to raid the place, when you go.
Right, I hear you there. I don't know what happened there, but I hear what you're saying, that what the Inspector General from the Department of Employment and Labour was saying about some restaurants having a back door for people to escape as soon as the inspectors arrive. You are saying she's speculating. But, she says it's from experience. That's the sense that they got, that some people were told to not even show up for work. And the other difficulty, of course, is that this blitz was actually announced in advance. So people knew that the restaurant industry was under the spotlight, at least for those 4 days.
Good morning, everyone. The taxi industry, for me, I'm not sure about them even wanting subsidies. Remember, if you look at the taxi industry, it's deeply entrenched in gangs and drugs and money war. So money laundering can't happen if you have to submit books to the state in order to qualify for the subsidies. So yeah, I don't. As much as we're having this conversation, I can almost guarantee you a large part of the taxi industry is not interested in subsidies.
All right, interesting take there. It's been a cry for the taxi industry for many, many years, as I was saying to the representative there that I spoke to, that this not being subsidized has been a cry of theirs for many, many years, saying that they have to be subsidized so that they remain sustainable as businesses. Let me go to your calls quickly before I go. Let me start with a call from Chico in Soweto. Good morning, Chico. You want to talk to me about the DA? You are saying that the DA are not serving communities.
It's not true. It's not true. It's like, let me give you a simple scenario. They say DA serves affluent areas. You buy a house. You find a house is in a decadent state, and then your next door neighbor house is also in a decadent state. You serve, after you have owned the house that you have bought, you upgrade it. Understand? Are you going to also upgrade the next door house? It can't be. They vote for ANC in the township. They expect to abandon the affluent areas to come and serve where they voted for ANC. It doesn't make sense to me. They are lying.
But Chico, in a situation where you are saying people vote for the ANC in the townships and then expect delivery from the DA. But all of that stops mattering once the election is done and dusted. If the DA is in charge, it really doesn't matter which wards voted for them and which didn't. It should be governance that is equal and equitable from whichever ward.
You know what? ANC, the president of the country, is the member of ANC. They've got more powers to serve. They've got more powers to able to serve people from both sides, the township and the suburbs. DA doesn't have that powers. You understand? They only vote for DA in small areas, not nationally. So how can you expect more a full service delivery from a political party that's governing Western Cape? Do you expect DA to abandon the Western Cape and focus in other poor areas? It doesn't make sense at all.
I hear you, Chico. Thank you for that call this morning. I can only imagine the leadership of the DA will be smiling from ear to ear hearing you say that this morning, because that's part of their arguments as well. But of course, it doesn't change the fact that there are specific areas of responsibility defined by our constitution. If you are responsible for local government, you govern for everyone equally and equitably. And that brings us to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you for joining us and for listening this morning, and thanks to the team that put it all together. The talking point is up next here on SAFM, but after the news. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, former minister and co-accused set to appear in court on bribery allegations, and Israeli military conducts airstrikes on Beirut. Good morning. Former Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizuko Dwan, co-accused former executive of an IT service management company, Jehan McKay, are expected back in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court in eastern Johannesburg today. Court was accused of receiving bribes worth 1.7 million rand from McKay in exchange for government tenders. Zoleka Kodashe reports.
Kodwa's last appearance saw his legal counsel Zola Majavu expressing his discontent over the continuous delays.
Every single day that passes, the prejudice, real or perceived, with reference to my client is significant. Wherever he goes, he's a scallum who's taken some money corruptly. We are ready. We want our day in court.
The case was previously postponed for the outcome of representations made by McKay. However, Majavu has threatened to launch an application for separation of trial due to the delays. Today's appearance is expected to shine a light on how Kodwa will proceed.
Lobby group AfriForum has called on the DA and the Freedom Front Plus to reconsider their positions in the Government of National Unity if the Bella Act is not amended. In a video posted on social media platform X, AfriForum says the move is in response to a group of anti-Afrikaans activists, including the ANC-run Gauteng government, who aim to sabotage the current discussions on the Act. President Cyril Ramaphosa signed the Bella Bill into law last month. AfriForum's executive head, Kali Kriel.
The hope that the GNU has ushered in a new era of cooperation will of course be dashed if it turns out to be that the ANC has simply co-opted the DA and FF Plus to blindly follow and implement ANC policies. Afrikaans speakers do not have, like other cultural groups, a large traditional area in which their culture is promoted. Afrikaans schools thus play a central role in the survival of Afrikaans cultural communities. For us, this is not just a fight against the Act. It is a fight for cultural survival.
Meanwhile, Bold One South African leader Musi Maimane says although the GNU has some positive elements, there are some challenges it needs to address. He gave it a 50% score as the coalition between the ANC, DA and other parties reached 100 days in office. Maimane cited bickering among political parties as one of the challenges. He says some politicians are too comfortable in their positions to remember the promises they made to their supporters.
What we cannot deny is the fact that the chronic issues that are underlying this country have been left unattended to. Let's take an example of crime, and I send my condolences to all the families of lost loved ones in Lusikisiki. There doesn't seem to be a cogent plan that comes from the Ministry of Police. So we can't, in the configuration of a new government, keep hoping to do more of the same and hope for different outcomes. The greatest threat to the existence of the GNU is for it to kind of have elected cabinet ministers and a president, but actually not been able to effect the material changes for South Africans.
Prince Harry has visited many community projects in Lesotho, Prince Seeiso, and some directors of multinational companies who wants to invest in community development projects in Southern Africa accompanied the Duke of Sussex. Prince Harry and Seeiso are longtime friends who co-founded an HIV/AIDS charity in 2006. Our international editor, Sophie Mukwena, has more.
Harry was accompanied by Prince Seeiso, whom they have a joint foundation that they launched with the aim of honoring their mothers, Queen Mamohato and Princess Diana. Many children who are orphans due to HIV and AIDS impact in Lesotho and in Botswana are benefiting from the project started by Sintebale. Prince Harry will wrap up his visit in South Africa before returning to the United States of America. Sophie Mukwena, SABC News.
And finally, the Israeli military says it has carried out what it calls a precision attack close to the center of the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Israel has issued a new call for civilians to withdraw from parts of southern Beirut, an area that Hezbollah dominates. The BBC's Peter Bowes has the details.
Lebanese officials say at least 5 people were killed and 11 injured in this Israeli strike on a medical facility, a building affiliated with Hezbollah. Earlier, the Lebanese Health Ministry confirmed at least 46 people have been killed in Israeli strikes in the previous 24 hours. The Israeli military says 8 of its soldiers were killed in the opening 2 days of its ground invasion of Lebanon. And this latest strike overnight came hours after a United Nations Security Council meeting where Israel warned it would retaliate if attacked.
Recapping the top story, former Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa co-accused former executive of IT service management company Gian McKay are expected back in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court in eastern Johannesburg today. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS card to 43187.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about Outsurance.
My name is Alan. I'm 71 years of age and I live in Douglasdale. I'm paying 554 Rand a month for my 2022 Nissan Magnite.
Want a car insurance premium that'll blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now for a quote. It's quick, it's easy, and it could save you hundreds of rands every month. Here's Amy.
To anyone who has not reached out to Outsurance, what are you doing? Reach out today.
Blow your mind, not your paycheck. SMS out to 30754 and see for yourself why Outsurance was voted Best Car Insurer 2023 by the Star and Pretoria newsreaders. Here's Yusuf.
It just shows that Outsurance is top of the tops when it comes to insurers.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
Masanda Wana ladies want to rubber stamp their authority with maximum points to stay on the summit. But Copper Belt ladies want to fight with all they have to move away from the bottom half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. Mamelodi Sundowns Ladies FC versus Copperbelt Ladies FC on Saturday, 5 October at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Outsurance Essential is designed for older cars. A 48-year-old man pays only 325 Rand a month for his 2007 white Toyota Yaris T1 and gets up to 1 million Rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car will be covered up to 1 million Rand. Get Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 125,000 Rand. It's time to switch and save. SMS car to 43187. That's car to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's and information online.
The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
So many of us choose our careers based on the exposure that we had. And if we don't do that, we tend to stumble into our careers. I think of my client in Paul, like so many young Africans, leaving her village or her township to bright lights where university could potentially be. Graduating, waiting patiently for a job, hoping that a listed company would choose her. Then the job arrives. Spend a few years working, get a mortgage, get more debt, and wake up realizing this is not what you signed up for. The best example of this is my client, Rebecca. She called me on a Sunday, Vumi, we need to talk urgently. I need a coaching session. I arrived. Dramatic sigh. Vumi, help. I hate my job. My boss is the devil incarnate. I am bored out of my mind. I cannot continue to do this. Why did you take the job? Because it was offered to me. In the world, we find ourselves, specifically in Africa, with our unemployment in most countries being between 20 to 40%. We don't choose our careers we allow them to happen to us. In Zulu, we say, "Umungazi ukuthi uyaphi, noma umuphi umgwaqo uzokufikisa." If you don't know where you're going, any road is going to take you there. It is important that we start having a clear destination for our careers. Going into corporate, very aware as to what it is that we're trying to learn. There are usually two types of career destinations. The first is working your way all the way up to the C-suite. The second is becoming an entrepreneur. Either way, by knowing where it is that you're going, what you can get from corporate is fundamentally different. You see, most corporates are divided into administration, the repetitive work that you do when you start, that bores you out of your mind. The second being tactical, when you start getting exposure to leadership and managing people. The third, operational, where you find yourself finally rolling out somebody else's vision. And the fourth, what most of us dream of, the C-suite, where you create strategies and visions as to where your organization is going to go.
And that there is Vumile Msweli, an international speaker. She's a renowned career coach and also founder of Hesed Consulting. Welcome to the Talking Point, 11 after 9 o'clock. A pleasure to be with you on the show this morning. I'm Kathy Motlashana, and as always, we'll be together until midday. I must say that I'm not coming to you from our really beautiful Auckland Park studio. I always talk about how amazing a view we have of the city of Johannesburg. I didn't realize there were a couple of other views that could really compete with that, but I tell you what, this morning I'm willing to concede. We are broadcasting to you live from the South African Breweries Agricultural Research and Development Facility, and it is in the picturesque town of Caledon in the Western Cape. Part of our presence here today is for the launch of the annual State of the BA Economy report, and it's a report that looks at the SAB value chain, and in particular the agricultural sector that contributes to that value chain and the significance of that agricultural sector. So that will be the basis of our conversation. Not now, it will be a little bit later on this morning, but I must tell you, this part of the country is absolutely pristine, is really the word to use that describes it best. The water glistens and it shines, just, as the sun of Ray lands on it, you can see it beaming from the top. The green is green and lush, and nothing is out of place. It looks like everything has been put into place, and you couldn't really frame it better even if you tried. So really great to be in this part of town. But that will form part of our conversation for the final hour of the show as we unpack the state of the BA economy. We'll be looking at this research that has been put together by Oxford Economics, and unpacking what exactly that means and the contribution then of the BA industry to our local economy. Yes, of course, while we take a look at that, there is also the mindfulness of just the issues that come out of the abuse of alcohol, right? And we know as a country, it is something that we are grappling with. Our communities are ravaged because of abuse of alcohol, and it leads to so many other issues that we are dealing with. So hopefully we'll be able to have both sides of that conversation in the final hour of the show. Coming up in the second hour, it is Municipal Watch. So I'm going to be taking, of course, your contributions to that conversation. We are going to be looking at the Mulin municipality. And just a couple of weeks ago, we, of course, had concerns raised by our listeners about the state of the Mulin municipality. And just earlier this week, it wasn't yesterday, but the day before, when there were protests in Mulin, some of our listeners also got in touch to alert us about what was happening. But either way, it does seem to be a deteriorating state of affairs for that municipality. We're going to be unpacking it on Municipal Watch in the second hour of the show. Of course, for the first hour of the show, it is the open line. And as always, I'll be taking your calls on the National Roundtable. Please do get in touch with us. The number to dial this morning, 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp line, you can send those WhatsApp voice notes and text messages on 0614 104 107. That's 0614 104 107. So before I get then to your calls and WhatsApp voice notes and text messages, perhaps then for us to pay tribute to the late South African gospel artist, gospel singer Soli Moholo, who passed away at the age of 65 yesterday. What an incredibly popular artist he was, and also great representation and ambassador for his church, ZCC, and many people who may not have known